Zoning Commission for the Village of Vernon Hills, and we need to start with a roll call.
Commissioner Baloo,
Present.
Cotton,
Here.
Hesner,
Here.
Heidner,
Here.
Mulcrone,
Here.
Gorig,
Here.
Chairman Morris.
Here. Okay. This evening we have two public hearings. The first being case number 20-09, an application filed by Michaela Walker of Kimberly Horn and Associates, requesting pursuant to the Village of Vernon Hill ordinances, first, approval of a one-lot subdivision on the legally described property, which is slightly different than the initial suggested approval. Secondly, the granting of certain variations relating to the zoning ordinance and sign code, which is also slightly different. Neither one or two require amendment to ordinance 2013-014. Thirdly, amendment to ordinance 2013-13, granting preliminary and final site plan approval. Amendment to the same ordinance, granting preliminary and final landscape approval. And amendment of the same ordinance, granting preliminary and final architectural approval. The special use permit will allow an outlot to be located in the B1 General Business District. The proposed location is in the parking lot of the former Carson Perry Scott lot at the Hawthorne Shopping Center. So who's going to speak on behalf of the petitioner on this?
Myself.
Okay. Anybody else or just you?
We do have our civil engineer and architect here with us tonight.
Okay. Whoever's going to speak, we might as well swear you all in together, so identify yourself. Why don't you introduce whoever this is?
I'm Sam Whitebread with Centennial Real Estate. I'm the Vice President of Tenant Coordination and Construction. With me tonight, I have Michaela Walker from Kimberly Horn and Associates. We have David Pindle from Fox Design Group and Hal Franke from MPS Law.
Okay, so we'd ask you to raise your right hand and swear or affirm that this testimony you're about to give before this commission of the Village of Vernon Hills shall be the truth.
I do, yes.
Okay, with that, you are on.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you for your time and consideration tonight. As I said, I'm Sam Whitebread with Centennial Real Estate. I'm here representing the Hawthorne Shopping Center. This evening, we're seeking your review and consideration of a 4,000 square foot freestanding building at the corner of Town Line and Hawthorne Center Drive. I've introduced our counterparts with us here this evening. We're excited to bring this offering to you. This is a relocation of an existing tenant within the shopping center, which is Sleep Number. Sleep Number offers a lifestyle brand. We consider them a best-in-class in their offerings. We're excited with the current retail environment to be bringing a new renewed lease to market. They've shown great interest in Vernon Hills, and we're happy that we were able to reach a deal with them and be here to present this to you tonight. With that said, we'll try to be quick with your time. We do have some site plan materials, which I'll turn over to Kimberly Horn, our civil engineer. Michaela Walker will come up and talk a little bit about that. And then we'll get Dave Pindle with Fox Design Group, who's come in from Ohio to be here with us tonight, so we appreciate his participation. Let's turn it over to you, Mickey.
Thanks, Sam. Good evening. As already mentioned, we are here before the Commission for preliminary and final plat approval for a one-lot subdivision. Minor variations to the existing zoning ordinance and sign code. Preliminary and final site plan, preliminary and final landscape plan, and preliminary and final architectural plan. As Sam mentioned, this outlot is located at the one of the outlots for the existing Carson Perry Scott. It's just west of the existing Uncle Julio's and Verizon Wireless store at the corner of Town Line Road and Milwaukee Avenue, as noted on the plan. Also shown on the screen are the already approved Milwaukee outlots at the northeast corner of the mall. For the site plan, we are proposing an approximate 4,000 square foot building with 41 parking stalls. This space previously was about 82 parking spaces that we're repurposing with the intention of this use. And it's reducing the existing impervious area from about 64% to 53%, allowing for additional green space. Also working with staff, we've provided a sidewalk connection along Town Line Road, which would connect any development to the east as well as any future development to the west. From a landscape perspective, we are maintaining existing landscaping, which is mostly trees, along Town Line Road, as well as the entrance drive. We are also maintaining all of the trees along Ring Road, with the exception of one, which we are proposing to replace in kind due to poor health of the existing tree. We are also adding 3 additional trees at the existing landscaped island and one at the southwest corner of the building. And we're proposing various shrubs and grasses along the foundation for varying height, but also to complement the different architecture. With that, I will turn it over to Dave to review architecture with you.
Good evening. I'm Dave Pindle from Fox Design. We're the architects on this project. The building itself is trying to aesthetically keep in line with the future development for the rest of the redevelopment of the mall. So we chose some materials that were similar to those being chosen there, with brick for the majority of the facades, as well as a fiber cement siding panel and some metal elements around the storefront, as well as a canopy. The main elevation is facing west towards the parking lot. That's elevation A. That's the main entrance to the building. Elevation C is facing east. Those 2 elevations will have signage on them. Elevation B is facing north towards the mall, and elevation D is facing Town Line Road. The materials, as I mentioned, are pulled directly from the palette from the redevelopment of the mall, proposed redevelopment of the mall. We've got a brick blend with the gray fiber cement panel, black storefront framing, and a charcoal gray and lighter gray metal material. The trash enclosures will be fully enclosed and screened. And we've designed the parapet of the building so that it conceals the rooftop units, so the height of the parapet in relation to the roof line, we'll be able to conceal those so that they won't be visible from the ground.
Hopefully the presentation is acceptable and answers any questions or inquiries that you might have. We are, again, very excited to bring this offering to Vernon Hills. We think it's a great complement to the Hawthorne Shopping Center, in addition with some of the other development activity that we have to come. We're excited for what's going on here in the community, and we thank you for your consideration.
Okay, any questions?
I have one for the architect. On the elevation, the plan tags don't correspond to the elevations.
Yeah, I apologize.
You have to come up here.
Yeah, I apologize for that. The tags are not matching in the plan. You'll have to reference the names of the elevations for the direction. So elevation A facing west should be where elevation B is in that plan.
Okay, so the tags of the west, now north, south, east, that's correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Anybody else? Scott?
Yeah, I have a question. Jeff, did you just ask about the elevation tag?
Yes.
Okay, so did you ask about why there was no sign facing 60?
He didn't. He did not.
Yeah, so I think that's a little different as well, maybe?
Yeah, you have signs facing east, north, and west, but nothing facing 60. What was the strategy there?
Actually, there was no consideration for signage facing 60. It wasn't something that the tenant had requested, but we could certainly.
We're not
look
saying
into
what you
adding
should
that.
or should not do. Those are decisions you're going to make.
Sure.
But the question is, that's the prominent roadway along with Route 21, but that's still pretty far away. So I'm just wondering what your strategy was.
We were trying to show the signage facing the main entry. So we were hitting that, facing the mall, and then facing the parking lot where you would actually come into the building, so that we hadn't given thought to actually facing Town Line Road.
Yeah, to the finding of it.
Well, you'll be able to see it coming down Town Line from both sides.
Okay, just wondering what your thought process was.
We do appreciate it. It's a great bit of feedback and perhaps a bit of an oversight on our part. And I think we were trying to strike somewhat of a balance with not too much signage, but also it's important to get signage in the right place and on the right elevation. So with your support, maybe we can revisit that subject and
Yeah,
look at
it's
an improved
absolutely.
offering.
Absolutely. I guess the question would be, why would you want the north signage? Because you're going to be passing by the signage to get to the entrance to the facility. So it's up to you, but
Right.
that was one comment.
It's great feedback. We do appreciate it, yes.
Now, while I'm on the sign, how are these signs going to be mounted? Are they going to be mounted on a bus, continuous bus, or are they going to be individual letters mounted to the side of the structure?
I believe they're individual letters mounted.
So they're peg mounted to the
Correct.
building?
Yes.
Right. No exposed raceways. From a design criteria perspective, it's not something at Hawthorne we would be excited or accept.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is it illuminated,
Yes, illuminated.
the sign itself, or a light on it to it?
These, while we have not developed the shop drawings, I think there's an anticipation that it will be what is referred to as a reverse pan channel letter, which has a halo or illuminating effect onto the building, so it has a glow with illumination. Absolutely not plastic faced, lit, that we, not that, yeah.
Is, one of the variations you're requesting is on the side setback. Is there a reason you can't meet that ordinance?
We had requested that side setback just based on placement of the building in order to provide maximum amount of parking based on a tenant requirement.
Do you really think you need that much parking?
From a tenant perspective, that was what was requested.
How large is this facility compared to what you have in the mall?
Sam, how large is the store in the mall versus 4,000 square feet here?
I don't recall the existing store size. I'm sorry. That's something I can gather quickly, but don't have it at hand.
Anything else?
I have
Yeah.
one more.
I want to revisit what Jim just talked about, that setback. I mean, the requirement's 20 parking spaces, and you've got 41, and it's a preference of the client to have 41 parking spaces. I mean, you're already exceeding, you're doubling the amount of parking that's required for a structure like this on that site for that use. So I guess the question is, and 18 feet is pretty darn close to that roadway there. If you were to lose 8 parking spaces, you could definitely comply and have 33 parking spaces instead of the 41, and still have, I think you'd still have plenty of parking on the site. You'd have a lot more green space adjacent to the roadway. You know, if your client would consider 33 parking spaces versus 41, I think it'd be a better solution. A lot more green space, a lot more opportunity, visual sight lines, and something to consider. Is this something that I can get some concurrence with,
That's
or?
where I was headed.
Okay, we can definitely take it back to the tenant and see if they would approve a reduced parking ratio
Yeah, because
for
you
their
can get to
building.
33 for sure.
Sure.
And I had a question. Where's the sidewalk to the north going?
The sidewalk to the north is, there's a future plan for a crosswalk across Ring Road, and then
There is.
it's a great question. Thank you for asking, and important to know. With this new development, we are putting sidewalk, a couple hundred feet of sidewalk along Town Line Road with this.
So at the request of staff, we've allowed for additional connectivity within the mall parking area. And so it will, one, connect when Carson's is redeveloped, but there will be a crossing across Ring Road.
And Mike, will there be sidewalk going east and west beyond this along Town Line?
That's what we anticipate, yes. As further developments occur at the mall, we're setting this up so that we could ultimately have a sidewalk all the way along Town Line Road. All the way to Buc-ee's, really, once Macy's starts redeveloping and such.
Okay.
Anybody else? I have a couple of questions. In the special use application business description, you indicated the facility is anticipated to create 10 to 15 jobs. How does that work in light of the fact that there is already a facility here? Are you talking about additional jobs, or you're just moving them?
I think it's probably more of a transfer of existing,
Okay.
of existing
So you're not creating new jobs?
employment. Yeah.
Okay. Secondly, the building that you're creating here, are there any other uses this building could be put to if Sleep Number decides to vacate?
We feel that there is, and we designed with that in mind, knowing that we need to maximize flexibility considering where retail's at in today's world. And because it is relatively an open floor plan of 4,000 square feet, we consider it highly adaptable. We've taken that exercise to the extent of maybe considering electrical capacity that will be running to the building to maybe account for future or alternate uses if it comes down to that. So yes, something we have considered and tried to be thoughtful about.
Let's assume there's a future use. How would they get deliveries or loading? You might want to refer to this. I mean,
We haven't gone quite as far with that exercise to solve for a future or alternate use loading plan as it relates to freight and loading zones. We would imagine that there would be some modification to the site if, in fact, it does change in the future. However, we do feel good about the tenant Sleep Number as a best-in-class brand who's absolutely viable, and we have a full support behind the brand and their ability to perform based on their proven track record.
in light of the prior comments with respect to the parking, if in fact 33 spaces or something thereabouts is achieved with the setback being pursuant to the code, we have a note from the staff regarding access to the property. Do you or have you for this a permanent access and parking cross easement to across Ring Road if they need the extra parking?
Yes, the intention would be that there would be a cross-access easement between the existing Carson's lot and this facility as needed for any overflow parking.
Okay, that's a slightly different answer. That's the intention, but what we have in our packet is, do you have that?
Do we have the cross-access parking already in place, or are we working towards that?
I think that's something we're working towards. I'll answer with a bit of lack of confidence on that.
Okay. Okay, anybody else?
Mike,
So, go ahead.
if it were in the future not to be a Sleep Number store and became like a fast food or something like that, would the parking requirement change?
Yes, if it changed from retail to a restaurant, then the parking calculation would change from one space for every 200 square feet to one space for every 2 seats provided in the dining area, plus one space for every 2 employees. So that would count. And then just getting back to the previous question about the cross-access parking easement, we included that as a suggested condition of approval
Yeah.
in your packet as well, just for informational purposes.
Yep.
How will you bring product into your store? Through the front door?
Through the front door.
Anybody
Is
else?
that typically done at off hours then? Or?
Before and after hours, yes, outside of customer traffic.
And since you're independent here from the mall essentially, what are hours of operation expected to be at this store?
Our expectation, although I don't represent the tenant directly, our expectation is the mall owners that they would operate the same, have the same operating hours as our shopping center.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, I just have a couple of architectural questions. What is, do you anticipate any of that concrete at the base of the building being textured? Or is it just going to be formed concrete poured in all of its magnificence?
We would do a hand rub finish so they could sack it to fill in any voids, make it nice and smooth. So it wouldn't be just pull the formwork off and it's exposed, you know, that
Right.
umbrella.
And as far as the metal panels, you've got black and gray.
Yes.
How do you anticipate joining those panels together? Are they going to overlap, or are they going to have a reveal, or?
More than likely, we'll do a panel with a reveal. Like we may end up doing a rain screen panel that has a thin line reveal, like a 1/2 inch reveal at the panel joints.
Nice, excellent. Okay, those are my questions.
Anybody else? Anything else you want to add?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have one thing to ask, if I could. Again, I'm Hal Frank, the attorney for the applicant. I thought that sitting and listening to the comment and question, Commissioner Hesner, that you asked about the sign on Route 60 was a great question, great question. And so I was wondering if what the rest of the commission felt about that concept of having a sign also on that facade facing the traffic on 60. And if so, and I guess this would be a question for Mr. Atkinson and primarily and Chairman Morris, is there, if the commissioners had no problem with that concept, and Sam Whitebread said they're going to go back and look at it because they thought it's a great idea too, is there a way to build in any kind of recommendation that you would make to the board relative to that, if it is okay with you, so that we wouldn't have to come back, you know, for that?
Exhibit A to the Planning and Zoning Commission's report indicates a variation of the appropriate section of the sign code to allow the size of two signs to be 62 square feet in lieu of the maximum permitted size of 31.75 square feet. If you simply just change 2 to 3, that would allow the same size sign that's on the north elevation to be on the south
That
elevation.
would be fantastic.
So the question would be, you're not asking for 4, you're still working with 3?
Well, I don't know. I would ask Sam Whitebread that question. I think the ones that need the variation are 3 or 2 right now, right?
Yeah, there's two that need variations as to size. If we didn't amend Appendix A and we left it at 2 signs, then we'd be fine. You just simply move the one on the north to the south and you'd have 3 signs. If you wanted that 4th sign, then we would need to amend Exhibit A to indicate 3 signs.
I do think we'd be interested in having four sides of sign, considering that it's 360 architecture, and we think there's some value in that. We appreciate it's a great point. If possible, we would like to propose that.
Well, and that's you guys are adapting well. You guys are, doing real well with this. But I guess the suggestion that I was making is that the north sign would come to the south side of the building, keep 3 signs, make them all the same size, and work with it like that, versus adding additional signage to the north.
Sure. That's fine. Sure. Well, I think that'd be okay, as long as the flexibility was built in to the recommendation.
Does it fit?
Yeah,
Okay.
it is. The way it's written, it would be.
Scott, does it fit? It's a different elevation.
They got to work it in so that it works. As far as the sign being high on the wall, that doesn't bother me. It's similar to the west elevation where the sign is higher on the wall.
Yeah.
So, it's neither here nor there.
Yeah, we would do it probably the same as the way we're doing the west elevation.
Just
Or
not on
very
the
similar.
not on the concrete panel. You'd have it on the masonry.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Anything else you want to add at this juncture?
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. This is a public hearing, and therefore, if anyone from the public wishes to comment with respect to this request, this would be the opportunity to do so. Okay, seeing no great rush to the podium, we can close the public comment. We note that notices were provided and we received no responses. We also received the section 18.3 responses for the special use application from the petitioner. Any additional discussion from any members of the commission?
Yeah, I want to say one thing. It's very much appreciated when people are responding to the 18 point, what is it, 3
Three.
section, that they actually do add a little something to the end of the repeat of the question.
Right.
So I just want to say thanks. It's nice to get that versus just repeating the question. So that's very nice.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, then what we have on this commission is a standing motion to recommend approval. Each of the motions recommend approval will be conditioned upon the 10 conditions for approval that have been provided in the staff report, as well as the 11th, which was discussed today, which is a recommendation for no variance with regard to the side yard and the reduction in parking to 33 spaces, if that can be accomplished. Okay, so we need, our first motion then is, I'm sorry. Okay.
Do we want to necessarily say 33 spaces?
No, probably not. It should be
A reduction
a
to
reduction,
comply
a reduction to comply with the ordinance without a variation for the side yard
to the site
Well,
setback.
setback.
May I suggest that there's a recommendation to approve a variation for a side yard setback, and if I'm understanding the commission, you would wish to not approve
Right.
that variation? I think you can just simply make the motion to deny the zoning variation, but approve the sign variations, and then the petitioner could adjust their site plan, move the building so it meets that 35-foot setback requirement, and adjust the parking as needed for their tenant, if that's acceptable to the commission.
That is.
We can do that, sure. Okay. Then our first motion will be a motion to recommend approval of a one-lot subdivision on the legally described property, subject to then the 10 conditions in the report. We need a second for that.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, we need a roll call.
Commissioner Hesner,
Yes.
Commissioner Heidner,
Yes.
Commissioner Mulcrone,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorig,
Yes.
Commissioner Baloo, Chairman Morris.
Yes. Right.
I vote yes as well.
I apologize. Commissioner Cotton?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Next, we're going to break number 2 up into 2 then. This would be to recommend approval of certain variations relating to the zoning ordinance attached as Exhibit A and subject to the conditions. And the zoning ordinance is the issue of the setback. So we need a second for that.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, we need a roll call.
Commissioner Heidner,
No.
Commissioner Mulcrone,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorig,
No.
Commissioner Baloo,
No.
Commissioner Cotton,
No.
Commissioner Hesner,
No.
Chairman Morris.
No. Okay. Then we have a motion to recommend approval of certain variations to the sign code, which are also described in Exhibit A and subject to the conditions referenced. We need a second for that.
Second.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Commissioner,
This has nothing to do about the location of the sign.
No, it's just the number and the size, right? Okay.
right?
Yep.
Commissioner Mulcrone,
No.
Commissioner Gorig,
Yes.
Commissioner Baloo,
Yes.
Commissioner Cotton,
Yes.
Commissioner Hesner,
Yes.
Commissioner Heidner,
No.
Chairman Morris.
Yes. Okay, here's where we get into trouble. The way 3 is written, it's approval to amend ordinance 2013-13, granting preliminary and final site plan approval subject to conditions. But the preliminary and final site plan we're looking at includes the variance.
Okay, so what we could do is with the condition that the building be reoriented to comply with the 35-foot side yard setback, and that the parking lot also be revised in compliance with zoning code requirements.
Okay.
That's a suggestion.
Okay, we have a second for that?
Second.
All right, we need a roll call.
Was that you, Scott?
Eh,
Who was the second,
yeah,
Scott?
I think it was, okay.
Okay. Commissioner Heidner?
Yes.
Commissioner Mulcrone?
Yes.
Commissioner Gorig?
Yes.
Commissioner Baloo?
Yes.
Commissioner Cotton?
Yes.
Commissioner Hesner?
Yes.
Chairman Morris?
Yes. Okay, next we have a motion to recommend approval to amend ordinance 2013-13, granting preliminary and final landscape approval, subject to the conditions referenced. We need a second for that.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, we need a roll call.
Well, hold on. So this is also a condition on the previous one that if the buildings move, the landscaping changes?
Okay,
I
guess
think
would
the
have
intent
to.
of the landscaping moves with it.
Yeah.
But if it's adding another 17 feet, is there additional landscaping on that east side?
On the east side.
well, on the east side, there's landscaping along the foundation, and then there are existing trees that they'd maintain along the access drive. So I think if we can just leave that alone, and then as Commissioner Hesner stated, the intent of the landscaping would adjust with the revision of the parking lot.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Roll call.
Yep.
Commissioner Hesner?
Yes.
Commissioner Heidner?
Yes.
Commissioner Mulcrone?
Yes.
Commissioner Gorig?
Yes.
Commissioner Baloo?
Yes.
Commissioner Cotton?
Yes.
Chairman Morris?
Yes. And lastly, we have a motion to recommend approval of ordinance 2013-13, granting preliminary and final architectural approval, subject to conditions referenced. We need a second for that.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
And those referenced comments are,
Oh, in the explanatory comments to your questions?
yeah, because he indicated that there's going to be reveals as far as joining, that there's going to be, that the concrete is going to be provided with an even texture beyond the formwork. And I think that's all that I asked
Okay,
for.
so why don't we say, who seconded it? I'm sorry.
I did.
Okay, so Jim, can we amend it to say, subject to the conditions referenced here and the comments made on the record by both the petitioner and Commissioner Hesner?
Yes.
Does that do it? Okay, any other comments?
I've got it, Scott.
Okay. I'm going to make a comment to explain how I'm going to vote, is that we have other, unfortunately, mattress stores in the village that have been built that, although they claim to be open for redevelopment or use by others, they really are not. And I'm concerned that this building, if Sleep Number decides they want a bigger, better building someplace else because they're so successful, this will become effectively a very unusable building without a lot of modifications out there. So that's my hesitation. But with that, we can have a roll call if someone else wants to say something.
Commissioner, excuse me, thank you. Commissioner Mulcrone?
Yes.
Commissioner Gorig?
Yes.
Commissioner Baloo?
Yes.
Commissioner Cotton?
Yes.
Commissioner Hesner?
Yes.
Commissioner Heidner?
Yes.
Chairman Morris?
No. Okay, and I think that's it. Okay, and this goes to the board,
Report to the board.
Mike, when?
This will go to the board on November 17th.
Okay. Okay, good luck. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay. Oh. All right. Next, we have a second public hearing, which is case 20-06, an application filed by Christine Kolb, seeking approval to amend Exhibit E of Ordinance 639 to authorize a multifamily residential use on the property, approval to amend the rezoning classification by creating an underlying zoning district of R7, and certain variations relating to zoning and sign code, preliminary and final site plan, preliminary and final landscape plan, preliminary and final approval of architectural elevations, and preliminary and final approval of plat. The proposed location is the former AMC Theater parcel located at 555 Lakeview Parkway and the adjoining to the west vacant parcel. Okay, who's going to speak on behalf of the petitioner?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Steve Elrod. It's a pleasure to be back before the Plan Commission. Mr. Chairman, we have a number of people who will be speaking tonight. Would you like to swear them in together?
Right. Why don't you introduce them, and then we'll swear everybody in together.
Okay. Those who are speaking, stand up. We have Yale Diekman, Christine Cobb, Ryan Meeks, Brandon May, Kevin Coughlin, and Jen Hendricks, along with myself.
Right. So I ask you to raise your right hand and swear or affirm that this testimony you're about to give before this Commission of the Village of Vernon Hills shall be the truth.
Good.
All right. You are on.
Thank you. Thank you again. I'm here to introduce you to the Everly of Vernon Hills. It's a unique concept for residential living in the village. That's because it's designed exclusively for active adult living, and there's nothing like it in the village. It's a concept that Greystar Development specializes in throughout the country. We'll elaborate on this type of age-restricted residential development throughout our presentation this evening. The development, as you noted, Mr. Chairman, is proposed for the former AMC Theater parcel on Lakeview Parkway in the Continental Executive Park. The theater building was closed back in 2018. Greystar is the contract purchaser of 2 lots that are outlined in red on on your screen, totaling 10.81 acres. One lot is the lot on which the theater building and the parking lot owned by AMC is located, and the other lot is open space currently, and it's still owned by the Karasotis Group, which many of you may recall was the original developer of the movie theater site. Both existing property owners have consented to this application, as has the management of the Continental Executive Park. The relief that we are seeking, which will be addressed also throughout our presentation, includes an amendment to the underlying zoning and PUD ordinance for the Continental Executive Park to allow for residential on this site, some minor bulk regulation variations and sign variations, which will be explained in our presentation, preliminary and final site, landscape, and architectural plan approval, and subdivision approval to consolidate the 2 lots. We appeared before the village board for concept review back in July and received as enthusiastic a response from the board as I've seen. They did ask us to particularly study and justify the parking for our proposed use. And they said in doing so, be sure to use local regional examples, not exclusively out-of-state examples. We had a parking study that was prepared by the national firm of Kimley Horn that justified the parking for our site. But we did just what the board requested, and we retained KLOA. So in addition to the Kimley Horn study that justifies our parking, you will hear from Brendan May today summarizing the KLOA study that also justifies the parking. We also worked with your village staff on tech review, and as Director Atkinson, and they're fabulous, by the way, as Director Atkinson acknowledged in his report, and as we are very pleased to report, we met and addressed every single one of the staff's or the technical review committee's points and comments. The presentation tonight will be organized into 5 parts. Despite working well with your staff and addressing all of your comments, we wanted to provide you with a very comprehensive presentation. First, we will provide a background and overview of Greystar and an overview of the active adult 55-plus platform that will be done by Yale Diekman, who is the managing director of Greystar's Central North team. Second, we'll provide you with an overview of the subject property and the proposed site plan. That will be done by Christine Cobb, who is the senior director of Greystar's Central North team. Third, we will provide you with a presentation of the building elevations, design materials, signage program, and site lighting. That will be done by our architect, Ryan Meeks, of Meeks Partners, all the way from Houston, Texas, who is here with us tonight. Next, we will provide you with our traffic and parking plan. Brendan May, as I indicated, from KLOA, will make that presentation. And finally, we will provide you with an engineering and landscape design plan and explanation. Kevin Coughlin and Jen Hendricks from Manhard Consulting will provide that. At the conclusion, I'll summarize our specific zoning relief requests. And before we get started, there are just 2 notes that I have. First, we have reviewed all 13 of the conditions in the staff report, and we are, I'm authorized to report to you that we are able to comply with, and we accept all 13 conditions. Second, and finally, I want to note that we did submit to you with our, in advance, our acknowledgement and compliance with Section 18.3 of your zoning code. So now I want to present Yael Diekman, who will give you an overview of the of our presentation of Greystar and the concept that we have for tonight. Yael.
Mr. Commissioner and members of the commission, thank you very much for hearing us tonight. We're very excited to be not only talking about this project, but really introducing Greystar to your community and all that we are excited to bring to it. This is not, while we are new to this community, Greystar is not new to the Chicago metro area. This indeed will be our 3rd project overall, and our 2nd of this type of the active adult concept, our other being in Lombard, just west of the city here. So we're tremendously excited to be talking to you about this and want to give you a little bit of background on who Greystar is. Many of you have not heard of us, although we are quite a large organization. We do not have a significant and major footprint here in Chicago yet. We're working on that, and that is why I was hired 2 years ago and have subsequently hired Christine and a couple others to help build out our presence here. So as you see on the slide here, we are indeed a vertically integrated owner, investor, and operator of multifamily and active adult communities nationwide and now globally as well. We are active in over 50 markets around the United States and abroad as well, and now in 13 countries. And by vertically integrated, we mean that we are a developer, manager, and in many cases an acquirer of existing communities as well. And we also third-party manage on behalf of other owners, both domestically and globally. These are sample images of some communities, a couple of which are local. These are all in the Midwest, and all were built by our Central North team. So image 1 up here, you'll see that is our apartment community in Lombard. I mentioned the active adult community being the other one. They are indeed sister properties across the street from each other in Lombard. Items 2 and 3 are both in our Minneapolis market, examples of other product that we've built and delivered to communities much like this one. Jumping into this active adult concept and what is active adult. Simply put, these are age-restricted apartment communities. They are not in any way on the continuum of care. They are not independent living facilities, active living, or they're not independent living facilities or anyway on the nursing home spectrum of care. They are indeed, for all intents and purposes, conventional multifamily communities. We program them differently. There are changes to the amenity spaces that we would make for this age cohort that we do not do for, say, a 24-year-old or someone who might live at Atworth Melody Farms, for instance. And indeed, we also operate them differently. We have programming for the residents of this age. We might have, wine nights and game nights, card nights, things like that that are a little bit more age appropriate and less of the Saturday, parties by the pool concept. As I mentioned, second asset in the Chicago area, you see Overture Yorktown here in Lombard. That's the lower left image of the 4 here. So that is our kind of flagship for this market, much larger in scale than we're building here or we're proposing here in Yorktown. But nonetheless, a great first flag to plant here, and we're excited to be talking about the second here. In terms of our national experience and kind of why we know this is the market for an active adult community, we've now built, either have under development or have delivered 40 of these communities nationwide. And as we build each one, we get smarter about what's working and what's not in our previous portfolio. So we're in kind of what we call Gen 2 right now with that portfolio, and this is probably the second 20 or so communities that we've delivered. We've learned a lot about how to program units, how to program the unit mix, how to program the amenities, and more importantly, the locations where these communities work. And I can tell you tonight that we are, when we first got involved with this site and started bidding on it, we indeed were the second bidder to AMC over a year ago, almost 2 years ago now. This was, at the time, and still is, one of our top 10 sites that we've seen anywhere in the country across the key demographics. Those being the density of this age cohort, the income levels of that age cohort, and by that cohort I mean 55 to 79. The housing values in the area are a strong indicator of people's propensity to spend on their rent checks. And finally, what that rent to income kind of ratio looks like in terms of how we underwrite our pro forma and can best triangulate on the rent checks that will work here, and therefore scale the community, design the community, deliver the appropriate amount of units for the community and the appropriate unit mix. Many of the benefits of this use for a community, it's a quiet use, much quieter, lower traffic. They tend to be smaller communities than your typical conventional apartment communities. The users themselves, our residents, are rather unobtrusive. They're a much just quieter age cohort and a wonderful resident to have in the neighborhood. And most importantly, this product keeps residents in the neighborhood. And there's not this offering in many communities where you can have someone who's an empty nester and maybe has adult children eventually that move back or close to the area, and they don't want to leave their home and have to move downtown or move somewhere else across town to have that density, that vibrancy without being in too dense an environment. And if their only option is to stay home or really move across town, there's nothing in between. So this is a great opportunity for people who are already here who want to get rid of the house, get rid of the yard, all the maintenance, the property taxes, et cetera, and yet stay in the community and downsize and be close to their adult children and in many cases grandchildren. So it's a great way to keep the community within the community, and we just feel very positive about this micro location within the village, and we're excited to have Christine come up here and tell you a little bit more about the site and the project specifically.
Hi, good evening. I'm Christine Cobb. I'm a Senior Director of Development with Greystar. Very excited to be here this evening. Thank you for your flexibility in hearing us, and special thanks to the village staff for being phenomenal to work with throughout the last, several months as we've been fine-tuning the design elements and working very collaboratively with the staff in several departments to make sure that what we deliver with our vision is something that is going to be beneficial to the community and supported by the staff, as well as successful for us. As Steve mentioned, the property that we are looking at, that we've identified, we know Vernon Hills is a top 10 market for us across the entire country. The dynamics that Yale referenced are very compelling. When this site came available back in 2018, we were very interested and put in an offer at that time. The industrial user that had successfully won that bid, but then failed to close, AMC came back to us, and our active adult specialists were delighted to have this come back around. So it is a vacant theater. It's been vacant since 2018. Parcel number 1 is about, that's the Karasotes parcel, and that has been a tax delinquent parcel since 2016. So we certainly think higher and better use than a vacant theater and a tax delinquent property is something that we find very compelling to deliver to the village. And we also do have support of the Continental Executive Business Park Association. We've received initial indications of support from them in December 2019, and they just reaffirmed that support as we were preparing our second technical review response. And they've been phenomenal to work with, particularly as it pertains to a couple of the planning nuances for the site and some of the setbacks that are there, the detention pond, and understanding maintenance and kind of cleaning up that area. So it's been a very collaborative process to get to this point. The site plan that we're going to present tonight is a product of the feedback that we received from technical review. It is also the feedback we received from the concept review prior to technical review from the village staff. And importantly, it's a product of several months of work from not just the specialists that work with this active adult product across the country and have eyes on this and understand the absolute optimum unit mix and unit size and orientation and overall building plans. So we've got experts in that realm. You'll meet Ryan Meeks tonight, our architect. Meeks Partners have delivered more than 70 of Greystar assets across the country, and they also specialize in this active adult space. And then we also leverage local expertise from both myself and Yale developers that are here local to the Chicago market, as well as our engineering and landscaping team that know the village very well with Manhard Consulting. We have taken all of the input that we've received from the village leadership and staff and boiled it into the site plan that's in front of you today. It's also based on sound planning principles. So as we were approaching the 10.8 acre site, and with the existing access road that we're preserving in order to maintain access to the restaurant outlots, we really wanted to think carefully about how to nestle and soften the density that we're proposing into the built environment and parameters that are around this site, the existing site constraints. That really drove our decision to push the parking deck to the far north end of the site, so it really responds to the loading docks at Hawthorne Hills Shopping Center to our north. To line the perimeter of Lakeview Parkway with these single-story cottage units that are very well received in these type of developments around the country, and then provide lower density multifamily use relative to what you see in a conventional multifamily development with 174 units in this unique wrap-esque building towards the center and back end of the site. So it's really away from the roadways and kind of pushed back to the north end of life. So we think, smart density, being able to provide over 75% green space in the site and really maintain a significant amount of open space and be a user and an owner and a manager that's here on site is going to be beneficial. And then providing connectivity and sensitivity to the site adjacencies are all kind of mainstays as we were developing this plan. Yaish, I hope that this is a little bit more legible on your screens. It's a little washed out. Okay, good. So what we propose, as I mentioned, is 7 duplex buildings, so 14 units total of these 2-bedroom cottage units that line Lakeview Parkway. The wrap building itself features 1 and 2 bedroom units. There's no studios and there's no 3-bedroom units. We do cover a nice range of sizes within the floor plates that we've proposed in the 4-story wrap building. And then importantly, we have approximately 10,000 square feet of amenities in the building that cater to this active adult lifestyle that Yale described. That includes, critically, on-site management, including an on-site engineering team that will be there on the property, not just serving residents, but making sure that the property is maintained and serving as an access point for village staff. Concierge service, arts and crafts, theater, continental breakfast, multiple fitness rooms, really an extensive array of sort of a lifestyle curated product for this user. We're very excited to be here. I want to bring up Ryan Meeks to talk a little bit about the design and sort of inspiration behind the buildings, and then I'll be back prior to the parking discussion.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ryan Meeks. I'm the architect on the project. I'm actually from Houston, Texas, but I'm very excited to be working on this project. My brother-in-law lives 3 blocks away off of Circle Drive, so I'm familiar with the area. I actually went to this theater multiple times in the last 15 years. But we're very excited for this development. It's something that we've been working on with Greystar for 2 years now. We've been working on this development in other active adult communities around the country. This one specifically, the architectural style we're going for is something that's a clean contemporary look. The residents are coming from a traditional home. It's something that they are looking forward to the next step in their life, something new and something exciting. That's part of the reason for the design aesthetic. The second reason is keeping the overall height low while still fully screening the air conditioning equipment. So keeping a flat roof and a relatively low profile design that thirdly kind of blends in with kind of the commercial architecture while still giving a kind of residential feel with balconies and that kind of human touch. Let's see here. So then this is the cottages. We started with kind of flat roof cottage, but it didn't complement the building quite right. We tried to blend kind of a traditional home with the contemporary architecture of the building, so ended up with these units with some really nice clear story lighting coming into the living space, and providing kind of a simple design for these residences on the street to kind of terrace up into the taller multifamily building. Materials, these are our primary exterior materials. It's 2 different bricks. It's reading really yellow, but I actually have them right here if anyone wants to look at them. This is the actual brick samples. If anyone, I'm happy to pass it around if you wanted to look at it. 2 different bricks, and then fiber cement siding on the upper 2 floors. Typically, it goes up and down depending on the massing. The wood is wood tone. It's a fiber cement siding that has a wood grain finish, and then lap siding, and we have some fiber cement panel that goes between the windows at some of those corner elements. Right there. And that's the panels, the windows, and then the guardrail system will be a dark bronze. Signage, again, we want this to kind of match the architectural style. We had a signage specialist put our signage package together, again, trying to keep in keep with the architectural style, as well as some of the commercial development in the area and the newer commercial development that's happening here in Vernon Hills. This is the signage for the building itself. This is the porte-cochere signage that we are proposing. And then this would be the lighting on the project. All the lighting on the project will be code compliant. These are samples of what we intend to use. Again, trying to match the architectural style of the project. Some soft lighting, nothing too strong, but again, code compliant is what we're going for here. These items D are these pole lights, just to create a nice kind of sense of arrival to the development. As mentioned earlier, we are requesting some variances, of which are up on the screen right now. These variances help us get to where we're at right now. We've created this building that is trying to blend into the community, create a nice amount of green space for what it is. I mean, we're sitting on 10 acres and we're utilizing not very much of it, trying to make sure that the pedestrians have an experience, that they can walk around the community, they can walk around the detention ponds, and it feels like a lush landscaped environment. And then I will hand off the parking.
Would you like to pass this around?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Ryan. As that makes its way around, I just want to introduce and provide a little bit of background. Steve did a great job in relaying, as part of our concept presentation to the village board, we provided some information based on a study of parking utilization of this product type across our portfolio and then beyond. Our portfolio in this space is about 40 assets. We included some other owned assets from other developers, folded those into a study that was more national in scope, and then focused more specifically on the Dallas submarket. We provided that study to the concept review, in the concept review with Village Board, and were requested to do a more localized, specialized study here. So just to quickly review what we have come up with in consultation with the staff and as a result of the study, not just of our national work, but really local specialized work that Brendan from KLOA will discuss. We do have 218 stalls in a 4-story parking garage. This will be managed so that residents are parking on the floor that they live on, and then can walk directly into their floor and their unit. We also have these cottage duplexes. Each of those have a full 2-car garage. In addition to that 2-car enclosed garage, there is a full driveway that we worked into the design at the recommendation of staff in front of each cottage so that there could potentially be 2 additional guest parking spots for those cottages within the entire cottage component of the plan. We also have what we call day 1 parking, which is the 27 stalls that are highlighted on your screen around the site intended to serve as guest parking. And in addition to that, and in support of the staff and consultation with the staff, we have provided for land bank parking. We feel strongly that the findings that KLOA will present in concert with our experience managing this type of product and understanding the renter here, we feel very confident in the parking that we have provided to be able to deliver more than sufficiently to meet the needs of the residents and users of this site. In the event that it does not, we are providing for that, maybe not day 1, but day 2 parking solution, so that we are going to design our landscape around the ability to actually put in these additional 17 stalls if needed. So the total parking that we're presenting, whether or not you include those 17 stalls on day 1, presents a ratio of 1.45 per unit overall. And then with the land bank parking, it increases our parking ratio to 1.5 stalls per unit. Let me bring Brendan up, and he can provide more detail on the parking study that was done. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Brendan May. I'm a traffic and parking engineering consultant with KLOA based out of Rosemont. Thank you for having me this evening. We prepared a parking study for the development to determine the adequacy of the proposed parking of 1.5 spaces per unit. And part of that study, we took a look at 3 different active adult developments that currently exist in the Chicagoland area. One in Glenview, the Overture in Yorktown, which you heard of earlier in Lombard, and then Avenida in Naperville. So as you can see here, the Glenview development provides parking at a ratio of 1.3 parking spaces per unit and 0.96 spaces per bedroom. Overture Yorktown provides parking at 1.31 spaces per unit or 0.93 spaces per bedroom. And the Naperville development provides parking at 1.36 spaces per unit or 1.0 spaces per bedroom. As proposed, we have 1.45 parking spaces per unit or 1.08 spaces per bedroom, which exceeds the supply that's provided at the 3 existing developments within the Chicagoland area. Our study also included a parking occupancy survey that was conducted at the Overture Yorktown and Lombard. The parking study was conducted on a weekday and a Saturday during the morning, early afternoon, evening, and overnight time periods. The results of our parking occupancy survey showed that the development had a peak parking demand of 0.87 parking spaces per occupied dwelling unit or 0.65 parking spaces per occupied bedroom. As you can see here, the parking demand that was seen is well less than the 1.45 parking spaces per unit as proposed. Lastly, we compared the proposed parking supply to the industry standards. The first being the Institute of Transportation Engineers Parking Generation Manual in its latest edition. In this manual, they state that the recommended parking supply for active adult housing developments is 0.9 spaces per dwelling unit. And surveys provided for the manual showed that the average peak parking demand was 0.61 spaces per dwelling unit. Secondly, we looked at the Urban Land Institute Shared Parking Manual in its latest 3rd edition. In this manual, surveys and case studies provided showed that the maximum observed parking demand was 0.88 spaces per unit. As you can see, overall, the proposed 1.45 parking spaces per unit well exceeds the parking supplies of 3 existing developments in the Chicagoland area. It exceeds the parking demand as observed at Overture Yorktown. And also exceeds the parking supplies and parking demands as shown in the industry standard manuals.
Can you go back one?
Yeah.
Why do you think that it's less than 1 space per dwelling unit for a suburban location that effectively you can't walk to anything.
Well, Overture.
Especially, let me add, again, but what we heard earlier, that it's going to be primarily people that were from this area, which candidly have cars already.
Mhm.
How does, this doesn't seem to work.
I can just, let me mention that for this active adult product, typically what we see, the split to 1 and 2 bedrooms, it's predominantly on the 1-bedroom side. And even in the 2 bedrooms, if there's 2 people living together, they're generally 1-car households
But this is less than a car.
in general.
But this is
That's
less-
just our experience at the portfolio
But,
level.
but what I don't understand is what you just said does not jive with what you indicated from your parking study. This is less than 1 per dwelling unit. So even if I agree with you, this study's no good.
In regard to the comparison, what we found with the 0.87 parking spaces does exceed the industry standard that would be utilized if we were doing a parking study for a development of this type.
Where are those other, Yorktown is at a regional mall, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can walk to things. Where are the other ones?
Well, Ryan was the architect at Naperville and Avenida.
Yeah, and I can speak a little bit to that. So I was, and that was with Avenida. The target demographic is 55 and plus. One of the largest occupants in these communities are low to middle 70s single women, and many of them do not still drive a car, and that's what brings the average down to 0.88. There's many residents that are living there that do not have a vehicle. So to Christine's point, many two-person, like husband-wife, scale down to 1 car. Many residents don't have a car.
But here, there's no way to walk anywhere from this location.
No, I understand. It's their child might bring them groceries. Go ahead.
I think a couple things. It's the maximum observed ratio, so I believe the site was walked, correct? Yeah. Parking's count. So first of all, it's an observed ratio. Second of all, this property is not yet full, and so I think that's diluting the number a little bit. I think at last count, we're at just over 70% occupied. So if you took that at 0.87 and accounted for the next, call it 25% to get us to 95% occupancy, you get to about a 1.2, 1.24, somewhere in there. I think that's what is lost here in this number that you correctly pointed out.
Okay. So then what, using that, where it says industry standard published rates for active adult housing, it sounds like you've pretty much convinced me that these are irrelevant. So what have you actually observed in terms of parking in a location that you can't walk anywhere to? Yorktown is a regional mall. You could walk across the parking lot, to do shopping, et cetera. Here, there's no place to walk because there's no sidewalks that would connect you to anything.
Right.
So what would really be the observed parking occupancy you'd see?
We'd have to report, try to dig into the Avenida Naperville and Avenida Glenview. Both, Glenview just opened in January of this year, and that is a drive location. I mean, it's surrounded by housing, so that'd be a good barometer for this.
What about Glenview? Where's the Glenview one? I don't know where it is.
The Glenview deal is just north of Gulf and Waukegan Road. It's near the McDonald's on Waukegan Road, near the Metro Viaduct. So it's a location that is not really readily accessible to any walkable amenities. And that's something to keep in mind. And that's also, when you go back to the comp studies for this market, you see that all of them are exceeding what the published rates are. All of them are exceeding the published peak demand parking. And similarly, we are exceeding all of those
what peak
comps.
demand?
The peak demand parking that was noted in the professional standards.
The one that's wrong.
It's published by ULI and ITE.
That's irrelevant.
Yeah.
We've already heard that it's not relevant to this project, so, okay. All right, that's all I have.
Just a second. Is Avador, Overture, and Avenida, are they all 55 and above?
Yes,
They start at 55.
that's correct.
Each
They're
one
all
of,
age-restricted 55 plus.
because it seems to me that that's kind of young for these facilities anymore. But if that's the way they're starting,
The age restriction starts at age 55 plus. What we see on the portfolio is that the average age is closer to 71, 72, and it does skew about 60% women to men.
I think it's kind of nice that it starts at 55, but at 55, most certainly, people are going to have their own car.
Yeah, it's
You know, they're still pretty active. They're still going out. I mean, it's in my rearview mirror, but they're still going out, you know, and they're still driving places, so.
And I think that's the reason why they wouldn't live here at that point. I think if they're still active and they're still doing the things like that, they wouldn't move to a place that is active adult. I mean, they would stay where they are.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And that would explain the average age being in the low 70s as opposed to 55. Do you want to cover the traffic study?
Sure. So KLOA also conducted a traffic study for the development where we took a look at the existing traffic volumes on Lakeview Parkway and its intersection with Executive Way and Access Drive. Our traffic study looked at the existing condition with what we observed from our traffic counts, a no-build condition in which we took into account the decreases in traffic due to the ongoing COVID-19, as well as the vacant restaurant north of On the Border, and to take into account any loss in vehicle traffic that may be seen by On the Border due to the ongoing pandemic. On top of the no-build condition, we generated traffic for the development and performed an evaluation of the access drives and the intersection of Access Drive and Lakeview Parkway and Executive Way. The results of our traffic study showed that the proposed development will be a low traffic generator, particularly compared to the existing land use of the theater. We did a trip generation comparison, which showed that the trip generation during the weekday evening peak hour was about 50% less than what you would see from the movie theater. The existing roadway system of Lakeview Parkway and Executive Way will be adequate in accommodating the traffic generated by the proposed development. The single access drive serving the development, as well as on the border and the vacant restaurant to the north, the access drive will be adequate in accommodating the traffic generated by all three land uses. And by removing the northern access drive, it won't have a negative impact on the operations of Lakeview Parkway and will improve the flow of traffic along the roadway. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Kevin Coughlin with Manhard Consulting. We're responsible for civil engineering, landscape, and surveying on the project. We founded in Vernon Hills, been in the region for 50 years. And got to say, for starters, it was a really nice opportunity, as was mentioned before. A softened site with a lot of open space, a net reduction in imperviousness, and that's without even considering any imperviousness for the two outlots. That's just a reduction from what's there today. The open space allowed a lot of opportunity for passive recreation. We're able to create a very lush park-like environment around the site, as you'll see on some of the future slides. Also able to enhance and complement the wrap buildings in the cottage. Throughout the site, we worked extensively with the village landscaping and engineering groups. Throughout the site, it's a very exciting mix of lush and colorful plantings, trees, shrubs, grasses. We're able to meet and exceed the 40% minimum native landscaping requirement. And this slide kind of highlights from a stormwater and landscape sustainability standpoint, a flagship. It's the plan view. It's kind of hard to see, but it's right west of the southeastmost basin, right off of 21. In that location, we're able to route all the stormwater from the site, which again was greatly reduced, and and route it all through a rain garden where stormwater is infiltrated, cleansed before it's released into the detention pond, which meets all the village and county runoff reduction requirements. I mentioned working with staff. We also met the Business Park Association out at the site to review the condition of this pond, and rolled our sleeves up and have an arrangement where all of the invasives and the overgrown weeds and smaller trees will be cleared and replaced with native landscaping as part of this project, which will tie into the rain garden. As far as engineering, I'll just say we're on the same page with Dave Brown. There was one item in regards to a new left turn lane off of Lakeview into the site, which we will be adding to improve the safety and circulation on the perimeter roadway. With that, I'll hand it back to Steve. Oh. No, go ahead. We'll be available for detailed questions.
Okay. That concludes our presentation. The zoning relief is set forth in the staff report. I'm happy to go over it point by point, but I think you have it all together. And we are all available to answer any questions that you have. Again, we thank you for accommodating us, for being here tonight for us. That's very much appreciated. And we thank your staff, who have been awesome to work with.
Why don't you, maybe not you, Mr. Elrod, but you generically or collectively, comment on, because it always is an issue here, why these variations are required, other than perhaps the parking, which you've already addressed.
Right. I will call our architect up because they're primarily bulk regulations, right?
Additional things you want to weigh in on? You can go back. Not going back. There it goes. Okay. Do you want me to take the lead, or do you want to take the lead on these?
Sure, I can.
Okay.
So for the minimum dwelling unit size, I think that this has been a variance for most of the multifamily projects in the village. What we've started to see in the last 10 years as multifamily properties have been proliferating throughout the country is that the living size of the unit itself is really offset and augmented by the amenities that are provided both interior and exterior. So, codes across the country aren't there yet, catching up to what we see as a very dynamic demand pool. So that's the justification for the dwelling unit size, and we believe that to be kind of standard. And similarly with the density, when we look at, again, density of projects in Vernon Hills today as well as elsewhere in the Chicago MSA, Atworth, for example, is 260 units on 7 acres of the apartment site. That density is 37 units per acre. The Oaks was 10. They had a much larger site. In this instance, you have a unique opportunity. You have 10 acres, and in order to have a viable project there, it needs to be a certain scale. If you look at our portfolio, again, what we've realized is approximately 175 to 190 units is where you want to be in order to have a successful project that benefits from economies of scale on the management side, but also keeps a community size that's much smaller than conventional. So that's the kind of right size, the project that we want to be successful, and then make sure that it is thoughtfully designed within the density we back into from the size of the project. The setbacks throughout the site, we actually have a diagram that I can kind of throw up here. There are ample setbacks. Just a minute. There we go. Around the site. So the loading dock to our north, we're 25 feet back. We're over 160 feet on the west side. The property line on the east side is 43 feet, but all the way 200 and over 300 feet if it's to Milwaukee. And then 30 feet is the setback that we landed on for Lakeview Parkway. Originally, we were observing the 50-foot setback that's more typical in Lakeview Parkway. In working with the staff in responding to their requirement for driveways in front of every cottage, we violated that setback in the handful of cottages that you see wrapped around the Lakeview Parkway right here, these 4. And the staff still felt comfortable given that we're exceeding 30 feet of a setback from Lakeview Parkway. So that is the reason why we have a variation there. Building height is something Ryan can speak more to. The floor to floor is something that we like to keep in mind. We want these to be nice feeling units. Our whole first floor is 10 foot clear, and then on the typical second, third, and fourth floor, it's 9 foot clear. And then in order for us to adequately shield all the rooftop equipment, we want to have a parapet as well that takes us shy of 50 feet. The wall signs, you know, it's a commercial property. Its visibility will help enhance the success of the property. And we want this to be successful in every way. We want the village, we know the village wants this to be successful as well. So that's really behind the signage variations. Is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, no, two things. To the height, yes. I mean, we kept the building at 4 stories, but we made sure that, one, the floor-to-floor height was there so that the residents are there for a longer period of time. They enjoy it, and they don't rent and then leave the next year. It's a nice stabilized development. The overall height, though, we actually kept it a flat roof project because we wanted to keep the overall height down, yet maintain density in a 4-story product so that we can kind of have all the rest of this landscape on the site and have a nice lush kind of open site rather than a really dense kind of fully urban filled site for the residents. Wall signs, architects on the panel, I mean, we'll know that 12 square feet on a building of that size does not, it's almost invisible at that point. So and we saw the signage package. We can pull it up again. It's not out of scale. It's just in keeping with the development that we're trying to do. So.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission?
So, you're in the middle of a business park. Why is the residential development along the business park? I haven't heard anything about that.
So what we've seen, for example, with the Atworth at Melody Farm, we're starting to see planning and development evolve from something that identifies a use and makes it a singular use spread throughout a district and that's it, to more of a really a mingled, sort of interconnected, intermixed series of uses all together. So that's part of the reason why Melody Farm and Atworth are so successful. You have residential that's benefiting from retail. You've got a gigantic jobs corridor with this entire Lake Forest, Vernon Hills, Libertyville kind of area, Northbrook, Northfield, Deerfield. There's tons of jobs within this overall area, and you want to be you want to leverage the benefits of the density that follows those jobs with the lifestyle that people are gravitating more and more to, which is finding places to eat out, wanting to be able to walk to work if that's accessible, wanting to be proximate to green space. And we think that this site as an infill opportunity just presents really a phenomenal chance to repurpose land that's currently a vacant theater and put something there that's an active use, generates taxes, and benefits from the amenities that are all around this area.
I would also just add and acknowledge that indeed it is in the business park, but when you look at it from an aerial perspective and you realize what corner of that business park it is in, and more importantly, or just as importantly, the adjacencies that are already there in the form of 2 restaurants. And this wasn't a vibrant retail center, effectively, when it was an operating theater. This was a high visibility, activated use that, all else equal, I think in many cases you wouldn't plop a theater down in the middle of the business park either. But because it's in this corner and because it was part of a, grander retail operation at one time that had, the 2 and I think planned to be 3, if not 4 restaurants at one point lining that outer perimeter. The same justification can be made for that activation and why that use works today, because it is more directly connected with the retail and the activation of Town Line in Milwaukee than it is the quiet office park to its southeast, or southwest rather. So I think we would fully agree with you that if this were inside the ring road, inside Lakeview Parkway, it would be a real head scratcher, but because it has the presence of some retail already and some active activations in its own parking lot effectively, which is something that as we go around the country looking for other sites, you want that retail connectivity. And indeed, Centennial's development of the mall will be an interesting example of that as well. Really intertwining residential with retail, and this is kind of that hole in the donut, so to speak, between many uses, but we feel ties better to the uses to its east and north.
And I'll just add one last thing, is that's part of the reason why the endorsement from the Continental Executive Business Park was so critical as a first step for us in approaching them and making sure that they were supportive of this use and amending the PD.
Okay, anybody else?
I have a question for Mike. So when you go next to Jason's Deli on the north side, and you get to Milwaukee, is there a sidewalk along Milwaukee? Because really, when you look at this may not be the most walkable site, but it is very walkable all the way to Walmart if you wanted to go.
Yeah, you can see the,
Oh, there we go.
yeah, thank you, Kristen.
So really, people could walk through the parking lot and get to the sidewalk and walk down to Dunkin' Donut or to Dick's Sporting, or around the corner they could go to Walmart. So it does have, I think, a lot more walkability than some of the other locations we may have. Just a thought. Personally, I kind of like that.
Do you have a walkway going through there?
Yeah, it's called a parking lot.
No, but it looks like it's divided.
This is just an existing access road. So you can see the road, sort of the property line that we've drawn in obscures it somewhat. We wanted to make sure that we had independent circulation around our site, so which is why we provided a ring road here, just to the west.
So your ring road to the asphalt to the east, there's nothing they have to climb over, is there?
No, it'll just be sort of a landscaped median.
I mean, is it possible to put a walkway to get to that?
We'd be happy to.
I mean, that would give walking access easy to the sidewalk on Milwaukee.
The other thing that I'll point out is there is a jogging trail that is around and sort of follows Lakeview Parkway.
Oh yeah, look at that.
And then it also covers this little bridge on the detention pond.
But I'm
and
just
connects
thinking,
as
if
well.
you wanted to make a shorter walk to get to Dunkin' Donut or Walmart, you.
Yeah,
We can put brakes in the
in the
median.
landscape median.
Yeah.
And that jogging path / walk that Christine mentioned does lead to a crosswalk that you can cross, where you can cross the walk.
Oh, that I didn't know.
Yeah,
We have a
this
crosswalk.
is a signalized intersection
Yeah, you can.
we can.
at Executive
It's
Way.
the light through here.
No one's used it. Run.
So I have a question and a concern about a little bit of the site circulation. So at the southeast corner of that landscape island, there's a confluence of parking access and the drive aisle to the restaurants, and then the service drive out of your garage. And I'm just wondering, how does that really work with traffic? Because if you've got someone coming down from the north along you've got two roads basically converging into one little point there.
Yeah, so there'll be a.
I was gonna say, I could talk to that. The garage itself has access on both sides, so, the traffic can come out of the garage and exit that southwest point right here. So we don't have this issue. But yes, I mean, hypothetically, if someone's coming in right here, there are people coming into this development right there. I do feel like the traffic is going to work its way to where they're going to come out this way and around and out through the development. That's why we actually made the garage a two-sided open garage. It doesn't need to be open on both ends, but we have it open on both ends for ease of access around the site.
We think traffic will flow counterclockwise, most of it, but the very few vehicles that we anticipate going southbound on that road, it'll be stop sign controlled, on, both directions.
I think it should be connected and cordoned off so the restaurant spaces have their own access drive, and then you have this one route in. I think it's an accident waiting to happen.
The only problem is, I know the fire department did like having the access around the triangle to be able to get to the front of the main building, and also have a secondary access to I'll call it the shared drive, the retail and residential both use. And then just from a standpoint of, counterclockwise fashion, being able to drop residents off, I like that triangle to help with the circulation.
How do package deliveries work?
We have a package concierge system in the building that you see on many of these commercial buildings today. It will be a package locker system where the carriers are going in, programming the package to show that it's been delivered, putting it in, and then residents are retrieving it. In addition to that, we'll program our amenity space so that there's some room for overflow or outsized boxes, and the property management staff will ensure that they're managed correctly.
I'm asking more about the actual trucks delivering, because the package room is off the rain garden. So I don't understand where the trucks will be going.
We have a loading zone for move in, move outs programmed up here near where our loading elevator will be. So that's moving trucks. For packages themselves, we would envision those parking here briefly, coming in, putting them in the box that's in the first floor accessible, and then leaving. We also have parking stalls here, and this little roadway leads directly into the amenity as well, and also has access to the mail-in package area.
And then how are you servicing the amenity courtyard? There doesn't seem to be any way to get to it other than through the amenity building, but you've got landscaping and everything in there?
Yep. We have, let me just go to a first floor plan. What we're working to integrate into the first floor plan right now is an engineer's room. Okay, this is the first floor. You can see this is the parking ramp. We'll have within this area underneath the ramp a room for the building engineer. And then this is currently, it's, I'm sure illegible, is storage. We were going to crop that and then provide a man door here so that the building engineer and equipment that's being stored in the garage, rather than traipsing through the amenity area and residential corridor, can just come from that space and then kind of come directly out into the garage. We'll also have a pool equipment building in that interior courtyard where we could provide additional storage for maintenance. But since we will have on-site building staff specific for engineering and maintenance, and then a couple of programmings, it's definitely on our radar, and we will continue to bake that in.
And I would just add that there's no, typically these interior courtyards in the pool areas are hardscapes, elevated planar curbs, natural grasses. There's not lawns in here that need mowing, and that kind of use where you are actually servicing with any regularity that space with equipment, other than basic.
So it's all hardscape?
No, hardscape plus planter boxes, so there could be mulched planter boxes with trees, things that are not irrigated lawns that would have lawn equipment and things like that you need to wheel in.
A lot of native maintenance-free
Correct.
landscaping. There'll be some, but not, you'll need to,
Correct.
any drive-in mower there.
The open courtyard to the west of it will have community gardens, kind of more lush landscape that would require that kind of more maintenance equipment, but that is a fully open, U-shaped.
That's active, pool, outdoor kitchen, active uses. The other courtyard is more of the softscape element, more naturalized.
And what's the construction type of the building?
It's type 5.
Okay. And sprinkler?
Yeah, and we intend on using a whole 13 sprinkler system.
A commercial 13?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else?
Can you go back to a whole site picture again?
Which slide, I'm sorry?
Just the whole, well, you're showing the whole
sure.
site.
Oh, gosh.
Want to see like
Am
an
I going in
aerial
the right way?
or this full site plan?
There you go.
Yeah, that's good. Now, you have a sidewalk going out to Lakeview Parkway from your development? Is that true?
Yes, it's hard to see, but it traces here. It is indicated on our civil plans as well. So this would join up with the jogging path that surrounds Lakeview Parkway.
We have new accessible curb ramps, which will be a piece of concrete sidewalk with detectable warning strips on either side of the roadway where the path crosses it. And that path goes to the south, along the south end of the pond, and then meets the north-south sidewalk on Milwaukee.
Is the maintenance of that path your responsibility or the village's?
That is.
It's the Continental
I
Executive Park
believe,
Association.
Yeah, that's the association.
I believe it's the
So
association.
it will be partially their responsibility. I assume there'll be
Yeah.
association fees that you'll be required to pay?
Through the assessments.
It's pretty awful right now.
The walkway?
Yes.
We have been working with Russell Johnson from NAI Hiffman, who is the association manager, and he had mentioned as part of removing the northern access road that they would want to come in and repave and ensure that the connection with the sidewalk was there. We can certainly, they've been phenomenally cooperative and supportive throughout this entire process. This detention pond area, we actually walked on site with Josh and Steve from the Village Public Works, and Russell from NAI Hiffman. They're going to come in and really restore that detention pond to the condition that it should have been being maintained for the past years since this business park has been up and running. I think they'd be very receptive to additional requests for, well, I guess I shouldn't sign them up for that, but I think that we can certainly collaborate to ensure that the sidewalks that are on site are going to be up to par.
Anybody else?
I'm looking at page 11 of 18 on the grading plan.
Yeah.
And behind the cottages, I'm not sure if that's a berm or what.
It slopes down.
I know it looks like a road, but can't believe it's a road. 11 of 18, right behind the cottages.
Yeah,
What is that?
that's a landscape berm.
That's a berm.
Yeah.
But it goes from 174, it goes from 174 down to 171 point something.
678 is the elevation.
670,
Yeah, 678 down to 676 is
Something like that.
the manhole on the east side, the catch basin. And then it's down to join the existing grade at the edge of the existing.
But your lot covers part of the detention pond to the west?
Yes. Property line goes into the pond, yes.
Yes,
actually behind the unit, it goes from 674 to 672 and then down to 670, probably just a little lower than 672.
You're saying that by the water's edge?
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about behind the duplexes.
To the water's edge, though?
No, it's not water, it's
Which
sidewalk,
Oh, you're talking about the southwest.
the
duplex.
cottages.
677.2?
No, it says 674 right there. 674
He's looking at
behind units like
The
1,
lower
2, and
cottage,
3.
we're talking about the upper. Yeah.
These three.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I think that's where Jim was speaking about.
Oh, yeah. Let's, were
He-
you talking
he-
about sheet 12 or 11?
C? Where do you see C? I don't see.
Bottom right corner.
I don't know, it's page 11 of 18.
It's 11.
Okay, it is 11?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the berm behind the cottages.
Okay.
And that directs all the stormwater where it's going today, which is south and east. You know, on the right side of that berm, and on the left side, it will return, it'll drain to the
To the west.
existing pond to the west. Yeah.
So how does the size of these apartments in the taller building compare to what your other development is in, where did you say it was, Naperville?
I can speak a little bit to that one. I worked on Naperville. Naperville it was actually not a Greystar project, but very similar size. We obviously are parking a little bit more on this development, but as far as the units themselves, similar ratio of ones to twos, and very similar average unit size as well. And then I don't know if Yorktown, your other development, but to that point we were talking about earlier, Avenue in Naperville again is parked a little bit less and is actually a little more suburban, less walkable, I would say, than this site for what it's worth.
In the cottages, they have, it looks like, doors in the rear. But they appear to have doors in the rear of the
Yes.
cottages. But is there any outdoor living space, or is it just grass?
Yes. No, there's a back patio.
There's a patio?
To all of those cottages. Yes.
Okay.
Is that, it looked like in one of the pictures it was enclosed, is that?
Like it had a
Yeah.
brick wall around it.
This little.
It's open.
Yeah, you can see that. Sorry, right here. This is a column supporting this patio. This is all
Oh, I see.
covered patio. This is just kind of like a low wall right there. But yeah, this is all covered back patio, which would have seating kind of looking out along Lakeview Parkway.
So there's patio beyond the end of the building too?
No, it's within the footprint of the site plan that you've seen, but it's nested in, it's covered patio.
If you're on that grading plan, it's the lighter, it's the thinner, dark line, it's outside of the thick line.
Yeah.
This,
Oh,
I
yeah.
see it.
It's right these ones there.
the bold one around the ribbon, and it's that lighter one.
All right, anybody else?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, how are you going to handle trash?
Yeah, you want to?
Do you want to talk about
I can talk about it. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Let me go to the first floor plan again.
There.
Yeah, that's what Mitch just talked about.
Okay. Yeah, so we have a couple different solutions. One, we have a trash chute and a trash room right here at the back of the property, which is right in line with our loading zone, so the trash truck can come, wheel these mini bins out and load them. There's a like a mini Mac, which is a kind of a small compactor in this room for a trash chute down to this room. In addition to kind of self-dropping of trash, there will likely be valet trash on site, which is something that management would come collect trash at certain points throughout the week to kind of manage that. But this is kind of above and beyond as the trash chute to the bins that are serviceable by the service drive.
So from the areas above, there's a trash chute? Okay.
That's right. Yep.
So if you live in one of the far units over here, you're walking it all the way over there?
Yes, but the reality is most of the residents will probably utilize valet trash and it'll be picked up from their unit. But yes, you would be walking from here to there to drop.
You say valet trash, was it like you put it out in the hallway at night and it's gone in the morning, or, I mean?
Yeah, there's a window of time that they can pick up the trash, a small window of time that they come by the units and pick up trash, and that's likely another Greystar active adult developments and market rate. That's a very, very common feature for their developments.
And how often do you think the garbage truck's gonna come? Because that's not a whole lot of area for garbage storage for that many units.
You know, I know on all of our developments, the developer and management works out kind of the frequency of the trash pickup depending on the occupant load of the development. Many of our deals like this that are wrap projects that are market rate apartments have about 300 to 350 units, and they often have a very similar sized trash room, and trash comes maybe twice a week instead of once a week on those bigger developments. This is half the size, maybe they have to come once a week, but if they don't, they can work out a deal with trash to come twice a week, 3 times a week, whatever's necessary to make sure it's taken care of.
It can often be 2 or 3 times a week. Again, it depends on the load, and then you know, the contracts can go 7 days a week if you want, but it's all size according to utilization of the room, and you know, you manage the trash flow. If you go 4 days instead of 2, you adjust.
Is there recycling?
Yes.
And do cottages then have individual trash pickup, like a single-family home would have?
That's the plan, yes.
Okay.
And how does the recycling work? In the same room?
Similar as well, yeah. There's enough room in there to have multiple chutes. We can have actually from the upper floor. I mean, hypothetically, we could have 2, 3, 4 chutes down to this room. Typically, on a deal like this, we would have 1 trash chute, 1 recycling chute. The trash would go down into a mini compactor. The recycling would go likely directly into one of the bins because they're not being compacted.
I have a few questions. First, I'd like to talk about landscaping for just a moment. On the units that are closest to Lakeview Parkway, you're showing some plantings. I didn't see a chart on which. No, this one doesn't show it.
Are you talking about the cottages?
Yeah, I'm talking about the cottages.
It's the blown up one in the corner there, but.
No, it's like L5 of L10.
Yeah, but that's got it on this one too. I mean, that's the one cottage blown up.
The buffer between the cottages and the roadway?
Yeah, and the sidewalk, actually.
Yeah.
The jogging path.
Yeah.
What kind of plantings are you thinking about that
There is
area?
a buffer there, as you see. Those are arborvitaes. It's a taller screening evergreen that.
I know what it is.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so, and what are the smaller, the B14s, the THUs, B14s?
All right, I'm sorry. B14, you said?
THU B14s.
Oh, that's THU is Thuya. That's also an evergreen. That's Thuya occidentalis, an arborvitae.
So it gets taller.
Yes.
Okay. That's good, because that's really close to Lakeview Parkway.
Right, and that's
it's-
exactly why we designed it that
And
way.
it's really close to that jogging path, and a lot of people use it, so it's nice to be able to give those people some privacy.
Absolutely.
Their backyards are pretty close to the road. I want to talk about the far northwest portion of the site. Behind that last cottage there, as it transitions to the north side of that last cottage, as it transitions to the neighboring property.
Okay.
Now, those pine trees are there, okay? But there's no fence there. Is that long fence yours?
It is.
Okay, are you replacing that fence?
We're going to inspect it with the village. We're going to inspect it with the village as part of, it came up in technical review. We want to go on site, make sure that it's in a reasonable condition. And
It's
we do
not.
intend on maintaining a fence on that property.
I inspected it today. It's not. So if that fence is yours and you're going to replace it, that's great. Because there's a lot of dead bushes along there too, and the fence is in poor condition. And if that fence is yours and you're going to replace it, then you should probably extend it the full extent of your property. Because to the north of that last cottage, it's just open to the adjacent driveway behind the commercial development. Okay?
We'd be happy to add that as a 14th condition. to approval. That makes sense.
Yeah, and you've taken great care on this area to the southeast. I hope you're taking as great care to clean up the area to the west behind those cottages before it reaches the pond, because that area is kind of rough back there too.
Yep, absolutely. We did a tree survey on the site as part of our initial submittal, and certainly saw when the inspector went on site and flagged a bunch of trees out there that we want to take out and make sure that everything's clean and nice.
Okay, I've got a couple questions on lighting. Your D fixtures are very nice as you enter into the site. On the opposite side of the road, there's some standards and lights, street lights. On the other side, on the south side of that road.
South of the access road.
Are you removing those?
These, oh, right here?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we would keep the lighting that's there.
You're going to keep the lighting that's there, even though it doesn't match your lighting and it's on the same site that you're
We're
developing?
talking about right here.
You're talking about the area south?
Yeah, there's a couple right on the south side of that road.
How many are there?
There's either 2 or 3.
2. Oh, yeah, 2.
And those 2 don't really match your style.
What's that? Yeah, no, I don't see any reason.
Are those the taller street lamps?
They're
Yeah.
street lights. They're,
Yeah, I know they're matched.
That might be Continentals. So we would just want to work
So-
again with them to make sure that whatever, if,
so are you going to own that site where the rain garden is?
yes. Yes, we are.
So I think that needs to get worked out, because if it's the same, if it's really one and the same site, then it all should be very cohesive.
Cohesive. Yeah.
And those street lights are not in great condition, and they really don't look very good, and they certainly don't look nearly as good as the ALED, the 5T26YKs.
I agree. I think it's a great point.
I want to talk about the rain garden for just a second.
Sure.
You know, rain gardens, you know, they're kind of nice to talk about as being pretty and functional and doing all the right things.
Yeah.
But they get real ratty real fast.
Sure.
And what I hope is that the plantings that are put in there are maintained and they're as nice as they're described.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
many
we're gonna-
times, these things really, in very short order, within a year or two,
Right.
look awful.
The nice thing is, it's not as cutting edge as it was 10 years ago. Most municipalities are requiring some sort of volume control, and oftentimes it's a bioswale or a rain garden. And I can tell you we're in a great position as engineers and landscape architects under one roof to manage the low and high flows, make sure we don't have an erosion issue, and also make sure we're being cognizant of the continued maintenance to keep invasives out, and make sure that the plantings have stayed established, and of course, look closely at the warranty period and make sure before the project is closed out and before we do our final punch list for Greystar that it's.
My question is really less directed towards you and it's towards Greystar.
Sure.
And, because I know what you're putting in there is nice,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I hope that it stays nice,
We
you know,
absolutely
moving
agree.
forward, because it's going to be, you're going to be able to see that.
Yes, it's on our doorstep.
The other part is that large open turf area. You're showing trees on a lot of your plans in the center of it.
Those are the.
I think that.
No, and go to, you have other graphics that are showing trees in the center of that, and I hope there isn't
Oh,
any.
yes, like on the landscape site plan?
Yeah.
The colored one, that's an old, these landscape drawings are accurate depiction of what we've submitted for
Well,
landscape.
this doesn't show it, actually. It's where the rain garden is, just a little bit north of the rain garden, that open turf area.
Right there was a rendering that showed some trees.
In the
those
center.
won't be there.
They're not going to be there? That's great, because that turf area is really nice.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
I mean, it's well-established, very nice, and maintained.
Yeah, great open space.
Let's see.
While he's looking, the landscaping between the driveways at the cottages, is that salt-tolerant?
I'm sorry, did you say that again?
The landscaping between the driveways at the cottages, is that is salt resistant? Salt tolerant?
Yes. Yes.
And what is that in there?
The plants were all chosen for their spots. We've got Asclepias, which is yarrow, which is salt tolerant and it is also a native. And prairie cordgrass, which is also a native. It's a grass. It's very tolerant of these conditions.
Can I ask a couple architectural questions?
Yes, absolutely.
On the cottages,
Yes.
have you installed this product, had this product built anywhere else?
Yes, the cottages themselves are like this actual elevation.
The actual cottages themselves, the elevations, because there's a lot of roof on these.
Yeah,
It-
no, we have built multiple cottages, single-family, multifamily homes. There is, let me get over to them
With
real
this
quick.
particular styling?
Yes, but let me get over to where we're at. There
It
we
just
go.
really appeared dark.
Yeah, so the floor plan of this cottage, I mean, it's two homes that we're kind of consolidating under this one roof. You know, because of the footprint of a duplex and it's a single-story duplex, we tried to break up the roof massing itself by doing clear-story windows right here. And then also, you know, if we go to just a normal kind of hipped roof, we'd be kind of here, and then over the whole footprint of this thing. We didn't want to go to kind of a traditional hipped roof or a gabled roof when we've got this kind of contemporary look on the main building itself. So we went to a shed roof. And when we did go to a shed roof, we thought it'd be a great opportunity to kind of introduce clear-story lighting into the center of the unit because the depth of the unit's relatively long, and we get some interior light right in the middle without providing a skylight, which I know and many people know is kind of a leaking issue. So that's kind of how we ended up with where we were on these.
The clear-story windows really are among the best things about these units. You know, they really do offer something unique for them. I'm just wondering if you've installed this someplace else and if it was successful, because it really, let's just say that I didn't gravitate to it when I saw it for the first time. You know, and I've seen a lot of things like this, and it just seemed like a lot of roof, but.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at
the
this.
coloring's kind of dark.
The way?
Coloring of the overall assembly is kind of dark.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at this side elevation right there, we're saying it's a lot of roof, but it's a 4 and 12 roof just covering the unit itself. So it's, I mean, you could go to a shallower roof if you went to a standing seam or to a flat roof, but basically, it's, you know, it's kind of is what it is as far as how much roof coverage it is to cover the unit itself. Proportionately, you know, these are one-story cottages, so yeah, it's the same amount of roof as if it was a 4-story building. So
Are you going to have gutters on these things?
Yes.
Have you looked at where those downspouts are going to go with these deep overhangs, like how that's going to work?
Yeah, we have, like for instance, like this roof will shed down to here. This will gutter over and down to the side. This one will gutter down this middle right there, right to there, and then on the obviously the sides we don't for this entry point. You know, we don't even have, you know, any gutters necessary because they're all going to come down right here and right here respectively.
So, you know, on these, you know, they're interesting. It's kind of like an homage to a mid-century modern. It's a little-
That's right. And
playful.
yeah.
But I do agree that they're dark. I'm wondering if the roof color was like a warmer gray or like a charcoal gray, it might help lighten it up.
I think, yeah, like a weatherwood maybe or something like that. I think that's a good point. And maybe even introducing kind of like a lighter fascia color as well, so they kind of contrast from the wood tone.
And all the units
They'll
are
change it
identical.
completely.
Yeah,
They'll
yeah.
change it
No, I think
entirely.
that's a great suggestion.
And then as well as with the garage doors, you're not using a real wood garage door, I assume, on these. Maybe something in the gray, like a
Yeah.
warm French gray tone or something.
I think that could be nice. Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion.
I did have one question. In the wood tone product, I don't think it has that much variation as you're showing. It's a little bit more monochromatic than that.
Yeah, that's probably true. Like this looks like almost like it was pulled like from like ePay or something. Yes, you know, we've been.
I just want everybody to be aware, especially Village Board, is that product, it's just going to appear more brown.
Very consistent.
It does have variation in the product though. Like I actually installed
The graining.
some at my own house. You'll see the grain gives a little bit of coloration, and for whatever reason, maybe slight inconsistency with how it's fabricated. When we put this up on a mock-up or in any of our projects that's on, you do see some variation, not as much as you would in this depiction per se. That's true.
I think really where the differentiation comes is because of the reflective nature of the material. Some of it isn't pitched exactly right, so you see it differently. It's illusion.
Yep.
What is the material on those balcony railings?
That's just metal. That'll be a dark bronze metal guardrail. Are you asking like
A mesh?
we can do either a mesh or a vertical picket. We haven't gotten too detailed on that as of yet, but we go one or the other. Obviously, maintaining the 4-inch sphere,
Right.
and code compliant. But it'll be a
Make it
dark
hard
bronze.
for people to climb over,
What's that? Oh,
just in case. You know, they're having a bad day.
yeah, they allowed horizontal pickets for a while in the building code, and once I had kids, you know, as an architect, I love horizontal picket railing, but once I had kids, I was like, this is a terrible idea. So, vertical pickets and or mesh.
You've referenced the community garden several times.
Yes.
The open
Yeah.
courtyard. What does that mean to you?
So, do you want to
Yeah,
go ahead?
okay.
Yeah, go for it.
So it's not fully programmed yet, but in many examples, we actually have community gardens, functioning gardens. Some are, series of beds that are elegantly landscaped, and some are even kind of concrete curbs to where it's.
But it's not vegetables and sunflowers and tomato plants.
No, it can be, yeah, indeed.
Yeah, for the residents.
It can be a resident, like a shared community garden. Others that we've done are just, this doesn't show the full landscaping detail, of course. Some are walking paths like this that, might have a bocce court in the middle of it.
And the residents take care of those.
Oh, the vegetables?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's a great idea because I'm a gardener and I love it, but I've seen a lot of community gardens. We've got a couple in the community here, and man, they plant them and let them go.
Let them go, yeah.
It's certainly something that I would imagine management has a close eye on if it's.
If they're having a hard time managing it, then they help them.
Oh yeah.
That is, I guess, my point.
Indeed.
If that's what they're going to do and they're going to have vegetables and whatnot that needs to be maintained, then at least they'll get help if they need it. Okay.
If they're anything like my neighbors, they should have the privileges taken away. Don't water them, don't take care of them.
And we are in a northern climate, and I'm very interested in. Tell me about the residents that like to live on the courtyard without windows away from the facility, just into the courtyard. Tell me about the appeal of those units. Because they're just looking into the courtyard and to other units, they're not able to see the street or they can see the sky and everything, but it's just an interesting thing to think about, the type of resident that appeals to.
Yeah, it's an interesting question because I'm thinking through just about every building footprint we've done in a low-rise setting in particular, where you don't have the luxury of going vertical enough to where everything can always face out as you go up, right? And most of our buildings, this is what we call our wrap. You've got at least some, we're wrapping the south side of the garage, but in many cases you're wrapping all four sides. You will always have this condition where there are units looking inward, because in many cases they might be like an uppercase E. Imagine that, turned on its side on the orientation. We've always got these fingers, but there are always, or almost always, units that face into a courtyard somehow, and they're.
But are they open-ended?
You see landscaping and trees and plants. You don't, in other cases, the east units, for instance, those are at the ground floor going to be more like an approach. They're a walk-in, kind of walk up to your unit kind of unit. They're much more urban tenement feel, but they're looking onto a median in the back of the restaurants, right? So it's, there's appeal of just, your site layout is kind of, you're kind of.
They can always leave their unit if
Of
they
course.
want to go see the street or something else.
This product specifically, this is an active adult community. Well, whether it's market rate or active adult, actually the courtyard units are usually a rent premium on many of these deals, and to each their own. I think the people that look into the courtyard are looking at the activity going on. This being an active adult community, there is going to be all sorts of social functioning happening on that courtyard, and things that like you can see. Oh look,
For 6 to 7 months.
Right.
Sure, fair enough. But those other 6, 7 months, wherever you're looking, it's just white snow you're looking on.
Which is also has its beauty.
Yeah.
It's also, the Atworth across the street has several of these enclosed courtyards. That's 260 units and at least up in 10 months. I think there's just a demand for a lifestyle that is a renter by choice lifestyle, and people are delighted to be there and take advantage of the shared amenities and have their unit as well.
Talking about this one on the right?
Okay.
We will have a fire pit out there for a few of those months too.
Yeah, the nice fall days, not so much this evening.
I just want to go back to colors real quick. So the window frames you're just calling out as aluminum white. I'm assuming that's just similar to what's in this room. It's just a clear aluminum, but they just happen to call it white. So it's just like these.
Yes.
Okay.
Clear anodized.
Clear. Yeah. It's just as white, and I was just questioning the white. Okay. So I like the iron spotting in the yellow brick. I'm just not sure about the yellow brick. I don't know if maybe it's just me, but you've got all these warm browns and gray tones, and all of a sudden there's the yellow.
Yeah, I mean, so that brick, and if you Google it, it's we're calling it yellow. I think it's more of a beige, and I think what it's doing is it's tying the cool colors into the wood a little bit in this element. So if it was all kind of cool and cold tones of the light gray, the white, the dark gray, the brown kind of sticks out as an anomaly. I think this kind of softens the development a little bit with the accent of this kind of beige brick.
Oh, you need to, wait, we got to stop you. I'm sorry, that's right.
Yeah.
Just pick one up, right there.
Oh, I can just talk from here. This is fine. Thank you, though. I was just saying that this, it has a contemporary look to this development. We didn't want it to go with all cool colors. We needed to kind of soften that a little bit. We've got kind of the light grays. We've got the darker grays. We've got the dark bronze. So the bronze and the wood tone are bringing in that kind of warmth to it, and that complementary brick, this kind of cream colored brick, kind of helps us balance it back and forth a little bit. Again, like I think we did start with a very cool like black and white and gray palette, and it just didn't feel warm and inviting, so we kind of tied it.
It's what you chose to do.
Sure. Yep. Absolutely.
Jim?
Could you go to A14, the north elevation?
Yeah, it's probably. Is it at the end of this presentation, Christine?
The garage.
Yes, in the appendix.
All right, let me get there.
That's it.
All right.
There you go.
All right, I'm gonna call you out on this.
All right.
So there's no bike path, there's no grass, there's no trees. So I think this elevation should be fixed to reflect what you're actually proposing.
Sure.
Because everything in the foreground is not going to exist. And then the trees, we don't have 100-foot tall trees in the site. So I just want everyone here and the village board to understand that this is not going to look like this. It'll look
And
like.
there's no way to see it like.
You'll never, yeah, you'll
Right.
really never see this.
Yeah, you can't see this elevation, period, because of the fence.
It's behind the shopping center.
Yeah, and then, so with the garage, I understand, it's precast garage, but you're painting it gray, so it's just gonna look like gray concrete. So I'm just wondering if the paint, since you are painting it, if that should be a little warmer tone, because that top floor will be visible. So also on the top of that garage, I'm assuming you're gonna have lighting, like light poles?
Oh, yeah, there's this, yeah. Yes, likely we will have light poles up there, yes.
Okay, so those will be sticking up how much higher than the garage?
Probably about 12 feet or so.
Okay. And then, so is that has a fall-off calculation been done for
We gotta tackle
the glare of that from a distance?
Yeah, no.
Sorry, repeat the question.
So have you done like a lighting fall-off calculation for those being on the roof deck, invisible?
Brian?
Yes, sorry.
Did we do a lighting study for that, for the roof deck?
We did. It was included in the photometric package
Yeah.
that you all
Okay.
And keep in mind too that the.
Yeah, and I think
there's
actually.
no roof on the top of the garage, so it's not as tall as the building itself.
Right, but there will be 14,
And-
15 feet.
And we should just remind me, we're looking at some wall pack solutions, so whether we light it from the stairwells adjacent to it with wall packs onto the roof itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then if you could go back to that elevation real
Yes.
quick. So what becomes the northeast corner, which is the elevator lobby, you've just got a blank wall of siding facing north. And in reality, I guess you could probably see that from Milwaukee Avenue. I'm just wondering, since that is an elevator lobby, what if you added some fenestration to that?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Because
I think
you will
it's-
be able to see that from the road.
No, you will. It's actually a good signage opportunity too, but windows as well. I think.
Corridor?
What's that?
Is there, no, there's a unit in there.
Yes. No. So that's just to get to the elevator. So we could certainly. That's a valid point. I like it.
Okay.
Is the top layer of, you said roof, so I'm assuming it's a roof. It's not a parking area up in the top, right? I was looking down on this parking lot.
No, it is.
The top
Yes,
floor
you
is
are.
exposed. The top floor
You
is
are.
exposed.
It's open. Yeah.
Jeff, can you
So I'm
repeat your
seeing
comment
Cars
about,
parked there. I would see cars parked there. Okay.
about the east
Yes.
side?
So you'd
of the
park and
elevation?
you'd walk into the building
East, yeah.
at level
So
4.
if you're on the top, you're gonna have snow in your car in the winter. Okay.
How are you mitigating the snow?
How we what?
How are you getting rid of the snow buildup?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that, whether we need a snow melt system where we're embedding some sort of heating element within the slab up there, or whether we can drain and pitch the roof so that it's coming down the ramp or to other areas that there's openings. It's on our radar as something that we will need to address. We'll work very closely with the village engineering to make sure that it's done so, thoughtfully. And to that end, we flagged for Mike just 2 of the tags that were incorrectly indicated on the elevations. And so we have replacement sheets that I just want to pass out quickly, if that's okay, while we continue the questioning.
And then, since you're talking about water, are these internal roof drains or are they scuppers?
On the garage itself.
No, on the apartments.
No, it's like one of each.
I would like to
They're
make
not
it
collated.
into the roof drain, is the goal here.
Each one gets one of these.
Especially with
Yeah.
our cantilever conditions,
Thank
like that
you.
box building on the corner right there. Last thing I want to see is a scupper and a gutter and
Just hand it out individually.
the cantilever condition down. So obviously, once we get into DD and CD, we'll work through that, but the intention is internally drained.
And then these are all split systems in the units and you're putting the mechanicals on the roof?
Yes, that's the plan.
Okay.
What is this
So
for?
can we go back to the, to the top layer of parking?
Yes, oh, sorry.
Or the, where you, so if we have a foot of snow,
Okay.
and there's cars up there,
Oh.
how are you gonna get rid of the snow?
So on multiple projects, that's either been shoveled or it's been either like she said, we'll work with either a heating system or a shoveling or,
Thank you.
you know, again, to that point earlier, I mean, our parking is actually, our parking provided is actually about 20% higher than
Right.
any of the developments, like actual functioning parking ratio. So we actually have a surplus up there as well for the, I know maybe.
Of course, then I don't know where people would wanna go, but it's gonna be a problem getting rid of the snow.
Sure, no, it certainly will be addressed by both our precast engineer, myself, the architect.
It's not unique to this.
I mean, no, that's right.
They have the same situation in Melody Farm at that residential building.
Okay.
Another one?
So do you have a facility like this in the north, a parking facility like this in the north, where it would be, that's had a few years on to it?
Yes. No, I actually did a student housing development just a year ago with Greystar in North Dakota, Fargo. Yes, I mean, both the buildings and the structured garage and this product type, we've done Northeast, Northwest, Midwest, etc.
And we also, Greystar, our property management group, manages several of these RAP communities, including the Atworth, but also the Reserve at Glenview and a couple others throughout the suburbs. So we'll definitely speak with our management team to see what's going to be most helpful to them in mitigating this issue as well.
Yeah, we've got,
My
another example, our apartment community in Yorktown has this exact condition. In that case, the community wraps all around four sides of the garage, but the top level of the garage is itself open to the air. So in that case, we sloped the drain, did not need a heating system. You can plow directionally. You may, in real severe snows, you'll probably lose a few spaces if there's a big, and you may have to sign those off.
I was more concerned about the ability of the structure to hold up after salt and snow.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Year after year, because I worked at a company that had a garage, and it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
I know after a few years.
All right, let's pause for a moment since this is a public hearing. And if anyone from the public wants to speak, this would be an opportunity to do so, so we don't make you sit any longer. You can leave it up, it doesn't matter. That's fine. Yes, please.
Thank you.
You want to tell us who you are, for the record?
Spire, Cherry Valley Road, Vernon Hills. Thank you for bringing this development to Vernon Hills. I'm looking forward to it. As a 79-year-old with an 81-year-old husband, we're not feeble yet. And I don't think he's taking that into consideration. The one-bedrooms, I think, are too small. Let's see. The parking, my husband and I both drive. We're both active. All our friends and their husbands are active and both drive. We all have 2 cars. So 1.45 cars, unless I have a smart car, is not going to work. I can understand a one-bedroom having 1 parking spot, but I think 2 bedrooms need 2. Let's see. As far as the parking is concerned in the multi-story buildings, will the parking spaces be assigned to the units and numbered?
Yes, parking spaces will be assigned.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, wait. You need to use
You
a
have to use a
handheld, please.
microphone if you're going to talk.
Just take the handheld,
Take the handheld, and then,
right? And then you can use it. Okay.
Can you hear?
Nope,
It's on.
no, it's not.
Show's on.
Try again.
Can you hear me?
Try the other one.
How about this?
No.
Green light, green light, green light.
There you go.
There we go. Now
Okay.
it's on.
Uh,
Okay.
The comment about the parking, I just want to point out, we have 1.08 spaces per bedroom. So the one bedrooms, on average, one bedrooms will have one, two bedrooms will have two, so on and so forth.
Oh, then I misunderstood that 1.45.
It was 1.5 per unit. But because we have a mix of one and two bedrooms.
It's more understandable when you say how many cars per bedroom.
Yeah, 1.08 per bedroom.
So that's two per two bedroom.
Yeah, okay.
2.16 for that little smart car.
Right. And then the parking on the top of the multi-story, I really think it should be covered. I am 79, and I do not like shoveling off a car. I really think that should be consideration that all the parking should be covered. As far as the gutters on the cottages, when you saw, someone said there would be a gutter coming down between the two driveways. In our weather, with the water running over the driveway, that's an accident waiting to happen.
That could be tied into underground.
I think all the gutters should be tied into the underground sewer, storm sewer.
Wait. Hand Mr. Meeks the,
Sorry, yeah, those will be tied into underground, yes.
Because I
yep.
have my house done that way.
Yep.
The interior roads, if they were built to code, to village code, they could allow for guest parking on one side of the road, because I don't think there's enough guest parking. You have an older couple and they have the family over for a family dinner, a birthday dinner. I know if we have them, we've got 7 cars plus 4 in our driveway. That takes up almost half of one of those little parking lots. And nobody wants to be walking 2 or 3 blocks to get to visit a house.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just thought that would be a consideration.
That's also a reason why we're providing for land bank parking. We believe the parking that we're providing to be sufficient, and if it's not, for any reason, we'll work with the village to implement those extra spaces.
And I think the interior parking with the roads up to code would be good. As far as the colors, I'm concerned about brown, gray, light gray, white, and yellow. I would hate to see something that looks like these apartment buildings that were built next to the Lincolnshire Theater. They are an eyesore if anybody's seen them. Let's see. On the multi-stories, I know that the second, third, fourth floors, they have balconies, but I didn't notice if there was an outdoor patio on the first floor.
There are. Yes.
Okay, I couldn't tell from the drawings.
It's on all units, but the smallest one bedroom.
Right. And will there be any sort of storage unit or storage cages available for the residents?
We will have storage available for residents, yes.
Okay. And as far as the landscaping goes, I hope you'll plant lots of milkweed, butterfly friendly.
If I could just answer that, I should say, Commissioner Heidner, I did misspeak. It's not a yarrow that's in between the driveways, it's an Asclepias, which is a milkweed. And
Okay.
around the rain garden, we do have a pollinator mix, a pollinator seed mix to
So you have
answer
hyssop,
that question.
You have hyssop, you have Joe Pye weed, you have prairie swamp milkweed, prairie milkweed.
It's mostly natives and lots of pollinator friendly.
Okay, thank you. And then I wondered if I have a pet, and I would assume that people, especially in the cottages, might still have pets, if you would consider perhaps a small dog park within the landscaping. And I think that's all I have.
okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Okay, if not, we will close the public comment portion of this meeting. Any other questions from the commission?
I do have a couple more architectural questions. So she brought up outdoor living space.
Yes.
And I was just looking through this, and I noticed that your larger units, the B2s and B3s, actually have less patio space than your one-bedrooms. in depth at least. So I'm wondering if
Yeah, let me see. I'm
you've
gonna
got
go.
room on the site, do you bring those out a little bit more?
I'm gonna scroll down to the appendix. Yeah, sure. So, yes, we, depending on the unit and the unit type in the building, like, I know that, so let's see here. You're talking about, so like the B2 unit, outside corner unit, this is, I mean, if we're talking minor differences in those balcony sizes, I would imagine, I mean, within 5–10%. I mean, generally speaking, we like to provide about the same amount of real estate for the exterior for all units. It has to do with the kind of the slope of the trussing, the lightweight concrete, how much exposure to the elements. The deeper we go with that balcony, the more problematic it can be from exposure to the elements. So the depth of those is pretty standard. Now, on some of them, they are shallower than others based on kind of the architectural elevations. But like, for instance, this B, I mean, yes, this one right here, we could cantilever this out a little further to get a bigger balcony if we needed to.
I'm just wondering if it should be, because right now it looks about only 4 feet deep. It's not really usable.
Yeah, well,
The A's
yeah.
look like they're 6 feet deep.
They're probably about 5 foot to 5'6" versus 4 feet. At 4 feet, you can actually get a small side table and 2 chairs. These units are a palette of units that we've worked on with Greystar, kind of nationally. But to the point about outdoor living, one of the things that we are trying to also do is at the ground floor, we anticipate trying to do extensions of some of these patios for residents that may have a pet, to have like a larger patio at grade as a possible option on some of the perimeter units. So. Is that it? Okay.
Okay, anybody else?
Do we have anything else that would be as close as the variance units on the cottages, as close as 30 feet to the Lakeview Parkway along Lakeview anyway?
Yeah, most R7 zone districts have 30 feet. That's where the dimension came from, because the development would include creating an underlying R7 zoning district, and those are the setback regulations that we applied. So you'd see that really in most of our multifamily zone districts.
Right, but there's nothing along Lakeview Parkway that's that
No,
close.
Lakeview Parkway would most, if not all, of that would be 50 feet, you know, yeah,
50?
yes.
Where are those duplexes? Or where are those cottages in the lower right-hand corner?
These are just images we pulled off. These are 2-story.
I know, but where are they? You don't know? They're just images that you pulled off. They're not yours?
Yes, they are not our product. Yes.
Okay, just
Yes.
wanted to know
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
because those are,
Yeah.
those are pretty hot.
No, they are. I agree. They're probably cost prohibitive and they're 2-story. 2-story product for active adult is just like a non-starter, unfortunately.
Just saying.
Yeah. No, they are nice. Yeah.
I don't know why they're there, but they look
Well, it's
great.
just design inspiration for the project in general.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That might be a little too contemporary for those cottages.
I don't know.
But they're nice. Yeah.
Very nice.
Where is your land bank parking?
Do you want to scroll to that slide? Land bank parking?
Oh, yes, okay.
Yeah.
We worked with the village staff to locate the land bank parking. So right now, this is all the day one parking, and then those darker green outlined in blue spots represent the 17 stalls. So some would be installed in that triangle island, and then the others would be in the larger landscape area across from the cottages.
And did you have any views of the units themselves that were closer than what these are? That you
Like-
could see what the unit looked like, actually?
Unit plans?
Yes.
So I don't have those in these package, but I'd be happy to send those over. We do have, in fact, I have them on my laptop. Would that be helpful to see?
If you could do it quickly, yes.
In their package, aren't they?
I think
Do where?
the floor plans are in,
Still
but
too
next.
small. You can't see that.
Magnifying glass.
I tried that too.
What are the unit sizes? Were they listed?
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
listed.
yeah,
The
right in
ranges are
variance
listed.
list.
Well, no, that's the variation on the size of the land to the unit.
Yep, they're right here.
they're-
This is the unit range.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
1 and 2 bedroom products. The 1 beds range from 567 feet to 832, and the 2 beds range from 1134 to 1377. And then the cottages themselves are 1586.
So the 567, that's a studio? Like, well, the one bedroom with the linear kitchen?
It's not a studio, it is an actual one, a true.
Junior one? Okay.
What are the price points on these? I'm just curious. Nobody's asked that.
Yeah, the price point at entry is below $2,000 a month. I believe it's like $1,945 right now. And then the most expensive unit are the cottage units, and those run for $4,000 a month.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, anything else you'd like to add?
No, that's it.
Okay. This commission has a standing motion to recommend approval. Each of the recommendations, or each of the votes would be with the conditions of approval that you've already said you've accepted, which is 1 through 13. If I kept notes, and Mr. Atkinson kept notes, I guess 14 would be replacement and extension of the north fence along the entire north property line. 15 would be addressing the lights south of the entry drive by replacing the current streetlights with something consistent with the north. 16 would be a consideration of color changes to the cottage's color palette.
To a lighter tone?
To a lighter tone, I'm sorry.
Is
Yeah.
it a gray lighter tone or just a lighter tone?
There's various tones that you can
Lighter
use,
tone,
but just
okay.
lighter.
Thank you.
Lighter tone. 17 would be to address, if possible, the elevator structure, I don't know what to call it, at the northeast corner of the site
The
by the
elevated
garage.
lobby facade.
Okay, lobby facade.
Add more interest to the facade?
Yeah. 18 is to work with staff to address the snow issue with respect to the roof of the garage, because even with global warming, we expect snow. 19, I'm going to ask the commission, though by asking it, you'll know where I stand on it. Currently, your parking, in terms of guest parking, not counting the cottages, is 1 space for every 7 units. If you use the land bank parking, it'd be approximately 1 space for every 4 units. So the question is, from the commission, should the land bank parking be land banked or returned into parking?
I'm going to make a comment on that. Considering the overall deficiency per ordinance, I think the land bank should become a part of this.
Okay. Well, then we haven't voted on it yet, but condition 19 would be that the land bank parking not be land banked, but be parking. Permanent parking. I don't know what it does with respect to some of the landscaping. So there's going to be some landscaping movement, looking at this one, I'm assuming?
Isn't the land bank, they said day 1 parking and then land bank. Is that coming later?
If I can, Mr.
Kinda.
Chairman,
Yeah.
We're happy, we're amenable to this.
Oh, you got to go.
We're amenable to this, and as I hope you've seen, we've been amenable all along, and because it's important for us, given our timelines that we move through this process. But with the land banking, the way we would structure it, and we'd work with your village attorney, it would be entirely within the village's control. We wouldn't build it now, but it would be there for you to direct as a requirement whenever you, the village, think that it should be built out.
So-
The goal being that it could be landscaped right now, and if we prove to be correct, because we don't think we're going to need it, then it'll forever be landscaped. But you will have the right at any time in your sole discretion to require us to build it out.
And at any time could be tonight.
Yes, it is, and we're amenable to that.
Okay.
I just want to make.
Fair enough.
No, that's good,
Okay.
thank you.
Right, did I capture everything, Mike?
I
Did
think
miss-
so. Did the commission want, as far as lighting the top deck, did you want wall pack as a solution for lighting the top
Oh.
deck rather than pole lights?
If it can be
Can
done.
be done, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how it can be done.
Okay, so we'll work, we won't make it a condition, but we'll,
You'll
maybe
work.
part of the permit process, we'll work with the petitioners to the extent.
Adequately light the deck.
Okay.
I don't know how it can be done without some kind of elevated source.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, in all honesty.
Right.
I just wanted to ask the question.
Favoring land bank, but I think we will need something near the middle, so not to meet the photometric code, so not to restrict
Right.
to only wall.
Something.
And I had two more, if I could just
Go ahead.
voice them, was just taking a look at the yellow brick color, maybe something creamier. I don't know, just a little variation, just to investigate that a bit further. And then the other one was looking at the condition of the pedestrian bike path along Lakeview Parkway, if it's on the property, and potentially repairing that.
Is that theirs or is that the park?
Well, it's,
Park.
yeah, it is the parks, but I'm sure they could work through Hiffman to accommodate
Okay.
the repair and/or replacement of the bike path as needed.
Okay.
Or, I'm
Those
sorry, the
guys.
jogging path.
Right.
Well, it goes from the pond all the way up towards the other pond.
Yeah.
So it's a,
That ties in with the other condition about the light post. Both of those, as you know, are not on our property, but if you impose that condition, we would accept it, but be willing to work with the park owner.
Wait.
Those aren't conditions,
I-
are they?
Wait, two things. One, I thought it was established that it is on your property, the light posts.
Yeah,
It- Yeah, okay. But your property doesn't extend onto the walking path or the jogging path or
I think it
whatever
does.
path.
The jogging path is located within an easement on the petitioner's property.
Okay, then it is. Okay, fair enough. Got it. Yeah. Okay.
And Jeff, can I get clarification on that brick color? What was the suggested condition again?
and it's just a personal thing. It's just something a little bit less yellow, a little creamier. I mean, I love the iron spotting in it. I think that's pretty cool. It's just, is it too much of a contrast?
Okay, thank you.
Wait a second.
Okay, I have a question, and I guess this is for Mike, but you don't have to answer it and probably shouldn't. Okay, with that lead in?
Steve,
Wait, go on. No, go on.
Steve, let's clarify, are those light standards on the
I'm learning
petitioners?
right now.
Yeah, because
Mr. Hasner, one sec.
it appears as they are.
Make sure we get the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, right now the property limits are here.
Where?
So I assume that the lights that you're talking about, the
They're there.
several 2 to 3 that are on the
Yeah.
south side of the
Those are on
access
our-
road?
Then they're on it.
So, yes,
Okay,
we will.
On our property, we accept the condition.
fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, this is my question for you, Mike, which you don't have to answer and probably shouldn't. But you can if you want to. We heard this evening that with respect to the minimum dwelling unit size, that the petitioner submits that the movement of the market and the acceptable sizes for 1 and 2 bedroom dwelling units is substantially less than our code. The question is, should we be addressing it as a variance, or should we be addressing through our code what really is appropriate and then look at the variance if necessary?
Well, I mean, I don't mind answering the question because it relates actually to the Sears redevelopment too.
Yeah.
And we've learned it from the Atworth and we've learned it from the Oaks because they all require the same variations. And I think the answer to both questions is yes. I think for the sake of this petition and moving the petition forward, I would suggest acting on the request for a variation, whether it be yes or no. And then moving forward, I think staff needs to take a look at that section of the zoning code and maybe come back to the Planning and Zoning Commission to amend it. I mean, those dwelling unit sizes were probably based on condo units that were built 20 years ago that, you know, were 3-bedroom size units that at the time were appropriate and really don't meet today's market conditions, so.
And similarly, and you know this has been something I've brought up several times, when you look at the parking and you accept the petitioner's categorization of the age of people that will be here, I assume that these are the typical parking stall width, which unless, you know, and I applaud you for this, everybody's driving a Ferrari 348, which is what's in your picture, rather than the monster trucks, which really we see in the village. I mean, do parking stalls, especially in a building such as this, need to be wider to be able to effectively be used?
Well, our code requires 9 feet by,
Yeah.
okay, so, and I, from my chair, I think that's an adequate size to park an average sized vehicle. If you have a Suburban, I think you'll be a little more challenged parking that in the parking structure.
Okay.
But if we ask for larger parking sizes, it makes the parking structure bigger and,
Yeah.
you know, so I think as designed, it's appropriate.
Okay, all right. So, as I've indicated, we have a standing motion to recommend approval.
Oh. A pedestrian access so that they can walk to Dunkin' Donut? Well, it makes it more walkable.
Can you do that because they don't own those lots?
Well, meaning through your berm.
No, it's our berm. We would accept
Through
that.
what you own, put a path, that's all,
Okay, that you can do, okay.
right? Yeah, but I mean, if you don't want to have them to,
We'll landscape it in a
yeah,
way that
put a
Okay.
nice, yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay, so there are now 22 conditions of approval on it. Our first motion to recommend is approval to amend Exhibit E of Ordinance 639, authorizing a multifamily residential use at the property, subject to the conditions that we've just gone through. We need a second for that.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, we need a roll call.
Commissioner Cotton?
Yes.
Commissioner Hesner?
Yes.
Commissioner Heidner? Commissioner Mulcrone?
Yes.
Commissioner Gorig?
Yes.
Commissioner Baloo?
Yes.
Chairman Morris?
Yes. Okay. Next, we have a motion to recommend approval to amend the zoning classification by creating an underlying zoning district of R7 multiple family dwelling district on the parcel subject to the conditions of approval that we've just discussed. We need a second for that.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
You know, just one general comment. I personally love this. I mean, we're taking a space, the theater in the adjacent piece of land that I don't know whatever would happen to. I think this is a great place for this type of development, and you can say it's a business park. Why are you putting that there? I think it's perfect, and it's a great addition to the village. That's just my comment.
All right. We need a roll call.
Commissioner Hesner?
Yes.
Commissioner Heidner? Commissioner Mulcrone?
Yes.
Commissioner Gorig?
Yes.
Commissioner Baloo?
Yes.
Chairman Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner Cotton says yes, too.
Yes.
Commissioner Cotner, I apologize again.
It's because she's in Libertyville right now. Okay, next we have a motion to recommend approval to grant certain variations relating to the zoning code and the sign code listed in Exhibit A, subject to the conditions of approval that we've already discussed. We need a second for that?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I have one comment. The setback variation required along Lakeview Parkway for those few cottages that are close. You know, I really question that on, you know, whether it was worth it. I think it's worth it because it gives a greater depth to the driveway in the front of the cottage. And that the landscaping is taller in the back. I appreciate that. I think the trade-off there is good. And, but they are tight with that road, and that road is a busy road. So The people that are gonna rent those units or live in those units really should know, they really should be informed.
Okay. Okay, need a roll call, please?
Commissioner Hesner,
Yes.
Commissioner Heidner, Commissioner Mulcrone,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorig,
Yes.
Commissioner Blue,
Yes.
Commissioner Cotton,
Yes.
Chairman Morris.
No. Okay. Next, we have a motion to recommend preliminary and final site plan approval, subject to the conditions previously referenced. We need a second for that.
Second.
All right, any discussion?
Was that Heidner?
Me.
No, Gorig.
Gorig, thank you.
Okay, we need a roll call, please?
Commissioner Blue,
Yes.
Commissioner Cotton,
Yes.
Commissioner Hesner,
Yes.
Commissioner Heidner,
No.
Commissioner Mulcrone,
Yes.
Chairman Morris.
Yes.
I vote yes, too.
Okay,
You're not alone.
it's late. Okay, next we have a motion to recommend preliminary and final landscape plan approval, subject to the conditions referenced, and I suppose, and as required by the addition of the land bank parking. So we need a second for that?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, did the repair or replacement of the fence get noted in that?
Yep,
Okay.
it's a condition. Yep,
And the extension of it for
Right.
the full length of the project.
yep.
My only comment was, I think we should maintain the landscape, the land banked parking until it's necessary.
I agree with that. So I would like to pull that one out possibly and vote on
Can we
that
vote on it
separately.
separately? Can we do that?
We can vote on the conditions separately.
Okay.
Yes.
Right, we'll do that. Okay, I'll make a note. All right, so we need a roll call then on
Okay, for
landscape?
preliminary, okay, landscape. Commissioner Heidner,
Yes.
Commissioner Mulcrone,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorig,
Yes.
Commissioner Baloo,
Yes.
Commissioner Cotton,
Yes.
Commissioner Hesner,
Yes.
Chairman Morris.
Yes. Okay, next we have a motion to recommend preliminary and final approval of the architectural elevation subject to the conditions referenced previously. Need a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Commissioner Heidner,
Yes.
Commissioner Mulcrone,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorig,
Yes.
Commissioner Baloo,
Yes.
Commissioner Cotton,
Yes.
Commissioner Hesner,
Yes.
Chairman Morris.
Yes. And for the record, although I'm not an architect, I'm just a poor little lawyer, I actually like the colors. Okay. Next is, we have a motion to recommend preliminary and final approval of the plat of subdivision, subject to the conditions previously referenced. Need a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, we need a roll call, please.
Commissioner Hesner,
Yes.
Commissioner Heidner,
Yes.
Commissioner Mulcrone,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorig,
Yes.
Commissioner Baloo,
Yes.
Commissioner Cotton,
Yes.
Chairman Morris.
Yes. All right. We had previously indicated that a condition of approval was the land bank parking would be permanent parking. So what we'll do is we have a motion as to whether that should be removed as a condition of approval. So we need a second for such a motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion?
So what exactly are we
Yeah,
saying
say-
with that?
Say the wording again so we can.
We're voting on whether we believe a condition of approval should include the land bank parking be at this point permanent parking,
Day one part.
day one parking.
Oh, to have it constructed as installed
Right, now.
now?
Right, rather
Okay.
than at a later date.
So a yes vote is to build the parking.
Yes.
Okay.
The yes vote would be to build the parking, a no vote would be say,
Yes
leave it land bank.
To keep the condition. Yes.
Yes, keep the condition, right.
Should the condition of approval to include?
Right. So yes means build the parking now, no means do it later as land bank. Any discussion? As soon as Mike is finished taking copious notes.
Thank you.
All right, we need a roll call, please.
Thank you. And, Heidner was the second?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Mulcrone,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorig,
Yes.
Commissioner Baloo,
Yes.
Commissioner Cotton,
No.
Commissioner Hesner,
Yes.
Commissioner Heidner,
No.
Chairman Morris.
Yes. which means our vote says it stays as a condition of approval. Okay.
Good luck.
Okay,
that's
at
clearly
10:25,
indicated.
is there anything else we can do for you fine people this evening?
Other than a big thanks for the accommodation so that we can make our contract schedule. Really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much.
The guy in the corner talk. He's the only one that didn't say anything.
What? No, we got to do the minutes. Okay, we now have, okay.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you. We have the minutes of the July 29th, 2020 meeting in our packet. We have a motion to recommend approval of it. We need a second.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on it? We do this by acclamation. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? They are passed. And
Oh, excuse me.
doesn't matter, you don't vote. You don't vote half the time.
Abstain.
Okay. Any development review we need to address?
Sears redevelopment is a week from tonight.
Right.
What was that?
Sears redevelopment, the Sears portion of Hawthorne Mall is a week from tonight.
Good one.
That's the only big one. Pet Suites, the former Bally's and LA Fitness will be completely demolished and replaced with a Pet Suites.
Nice.
Requires map amendment, zoning text amendment to create that use. We're thinking as a special use.
Great.
And then all your other typical approvals.
What is it?
Pet Suites, daycare or kenneling services. It's something we don't have here. I think it's a good use.
Yeah.
Good use for that property, too.
Okay.
That's about it.
All right, so
What
we'll
about
see.
Chuck E. Cheese? What's going in there?
Liquor barn.
Okay, and that's a done deal?
That's a done deal. And I can also tell you, about of the former Hobby Lobby.
Oh.
A lot of liquor and wine choices
What did-
for our community.
What's the liquor thing you said before?
Liquor
Benny?
barn.
It's called Liquor Barn. There's a place in
What is it?
Wheeling, I've been
Wheeling.
told.
Is it a liquor store?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Said,
Just the store to sell, not to consume?
right.
Yeah, we can consume at home. Yes.
But you don't drink it there?
Right.
Or in
it's-
your car. Okay, then we'll see everybody next Wednesday again.
I have one
Oh,
more,
I'm
one more
sorry.
thing.
Yes, so
Chairman Morris, you brought up about typical apartment unit sizes and possibly modifying those. I see weekly reports in my line of work on those sizes, and they are trending down, very similar to this. So I could share with you guys when I get reports, just so you can see
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
different
helpful.
suburban locations of what's
Yeah,
happening.
that'd be helpful, I think.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so we've motion to adjourn. We need a second.
Second?
Anyone, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, good night.